Welcome to the new MARIK Workshop from WBPL 76. This program is brought to you by Lady Red Productions, the Bear Digs Corporation, and a generous grant from the Night Owl Foundation. Why are you here? Cat, will you stop trolling me?
Tonight's new MARIK Workshop brought to you by Fountain Drink. Always plenty, you can see right through it. Enough chlorine to kill bacteria in and out of your digestive tract, all while tasting like pennies. When you are thirsty, dip into the fountain for Fountain Drink. Available at concessions or in the lobby. My favorite part of the new MARIK Workshop is when Parallax said, "It's parallaxin' time," and parallaxed all over the place.
Ooh, woo.
Why are you here?
Don't understand what's going on, but I'm here for it!
It's an iPhone.
I just hit myself in the balls with an iPhone.
Once in the Waffle House upon Van Zant.
Welcome to Canopus! Get your dick out of that. Somebody quote that?
Grandma's.
At least enough to quote.
Yes.
The dong slider.
No!
No! How?
Stormamusame.
Oh my god.
No. This is gonna be perfectly normal.
Not putting it in the song.
Going in there!
I need soap and lye and probably some acid.
Stupid is the way you do things.
I would so download me.
Yeah, I need that walking chicken.
What the shit did I just watch?
Spooky.
There are many worlds available to the world of imagination, a portal through which one can visit infinite worlds, what has been, what might have been, what never could be. And in each of these, there is another version of you, a permutation, a self-insert, who is thinking these very same thoughts, leading to an infinite spiderweb, a fork bomb of thought that prevents the universe from taking notice too closely for fear of the bean counters looking at the charges we've run up for conscious thought. So when you wake up at 2 a.m. thinking, as you stumble your way to the bathroom, know that sleep has been invented for budgetary reasons, and there is no defense against it. With that in mind, we welcome you to the new MARIK Workshop.
No, that tracks. Oh, that tracks. Although I'm not sure.
Yeah,
what a
but
fork bomb
is this other universe version of me younger and skinnier?
I mean, it goes in all directions simultaneously. It's like if you take quantum physics and then swish it around in your mouth for a minute, don't worry about it. It's mostly fine.
So as it turns out, you exist in very large dimensions as well as very small dimensions simultaneously.
I'm bigger on the inside.
I did not need to know that.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the new MARIK Workshop, where everything's made up and there aren't points to start with. I hope everybody's having a good week. And we are here for our normal clownery. Tonight we are joined by our special guest, Uncle Adam of Tabletop Minions.
How you doing?
Oh, very well. Thank you for asking.
Frankly, I persist. I have managed to survive the demands of the federal government this week, and I don't have to talk about it now.
That's good.
Yeah. So, chat, I know that you're going to do the things that you do, and I can't stop you, so we'll see how this happens. But we're also joined by, as you can tell, Squick.
Hi! You're hearing this in my voice.
And the incomparable Lady Red.
No, I have tea, and therefore things will be okay. I promise.
Oh, she sounds so comfy.
I have a drink that is a very similar tint and hue to weak tea. With that said, we already have a hype train going.
I wouldn't worry about it. I also have apple juice. And, of course, our very special guest, who we've kind of introduced, but we do introductions in a circle because we're easily lost. Hello, Adam, or Uncle Adam, as preferred.
So, chat, some months ago I asked who you'd like to get on stream, and, well, I've knocked 2 off the list now. So, here we go. We're going to talk to Adam some this week and see where the conversation goes. But, Adam, I wanted to thank you again for being on tonight. And also, since I got to see you last month, thank you for running a very enjoyable gaming expo that, like I said, I haven't done any kind of gaming cons in a long time, and that was a nice way to ease back into it.
It is it's small, but we kind of like it that way. It's this year it was a little over 100 people, maybe close to 120. So that was pretty cool. It's all, we call it an expo as opposed to a convention because people just come to learn about new games. Everything is all demos for the most part. So our game masters run stuff, and then people come and sit down and play. You don't have to worry about tournaments and competitions. You don't have to bring your own dice and all that kind of stuff. And it's a lot of fun. I've been doing it since, I think, 2017. Missed a couple of years there due to the pandemic, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was since about 2017 or so.
And like I said, it is a great event, and I'm trying to encourage more of the Legion members and our auxiliary members to show up next year. I'd love to create a problem for you where too many people want to give you money, but we'll see what happens. I know that there were also some concerns about sizes of rooms and relative cost, so don't want to create too much problem, but I'd love to make that problem for you.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's one of those situations where I need to talk probably next week to the folks at the venue and try to figure out if we can expand, what that looks like. Can we expand just a little bit? I have a suspicion that's not the case. I think it's probably can we just get like another 50 feet? No, I don't think so. I think there's probably going to be like it's either double or nothing kind of situation. And so I don't know. It's already considerably more expensive in that location than it was where we started, but we didn't have much of a choice. So
yeah, from what you were telling us at the event, the circumstances around that change were a little bit shitty. So yeah. Okay,
but did you have fun?
Oh yes, it was a great event. I had a lot of fun and met a lot of nice people and played some fun games, and we're going to talk about some of them tonight. Okay, I want to go ahead and jump into stuff that has been submitted to us by our viewers this week, and we're starting with Archon Eric. And we've got some of the Bloodborne minis here that he's painted. And I was given the indication that Archon wanted critique and advice if it came up. Red, I have no idea what I'm looking at here.
So you're familiar with the concept of Bloodborne, yes?
I am familiar that what if Dark Souls but Victorian and also blood?
So it starts out as, what if Dark Souls, but Victorian Werewolf Hunter, until you realize, oh, this is Cthulhu mythos. So what you are looking at here is stuff to do with Murgo, one of the sort of elder god Cthulhu nonsense beings. And too many arms teleporting and nursery rhyme music while you're doing it, which is fun.
Is this feathers or is this like fabric?
It's mostly feathers, but as stated, Cthulhu nonsense. So the bottom half has like fabric that's also part of it. The top half is more feathers than that, and all of it is weird eldritch teleporty nonsense. So it's all kind of floaty and doesn't behave itself.
This creature is clearly built to 1v1 Julius Caesar.
He does
or
have
General Grievous. Yes.
many knives with which to put into the back of people. Okay, so I was asked for any advice I could give on this. You've got your base layers down here. You've got good separation between the knives and the body. I'm a little thrown off by the fact that you have the lighter part of the model on the bottom. I don't know if that's accurate, again, to the game or not, if that's part of the Eldritch
It's
thing.
pretty accurate to the game.
Okay. I think the simple advice I would give to give it a little bit more definition would be to take a couple of shades lighter gray and give it a dry brushing over those feather details to make that texture show through. Because right now I'm just getting that kind of satin shine off of everything that's kind of throwing it off for me a bit. You've got a good base here. I think you can build up from it. Adam, please feel free to jump in on any of this if you choose to.
Mm-hmm.
But also, paper towel. I thought we all agreed that chat was antagonizing me by sending me photographs of things in refrigerators.
No, the paper towel is there for a very good reason.
Is it there to protect the refrigerator?
It's so that we could have the Murgo joke. Because you see, this thing is Murgo's wet nurse.
Sure. Here it is
What
from
you
another.
don't actually get to see in the game.
I assume this is the same thing from a different angle because, as you said, Eldritch monstrosity, shape and form don't mean anything. Yeah, this is the same miniature.
This thing likes to just stab you out of pools of shadow and nonsense, and just, an arm will just appear and skewer you, and that's fine. That's fine, that's normal.
Those upper hands being like held out to the sides. The whole thing's just like, stand back! I'm going to try shanking!
That tracks. Yeah, Archon, I know that you labeled them. It's just much funnier if I get somebody that actually knows what the hell is going on with these to comment on it. So, also, whenever I move things into my folder, I have to put the names of people who submitted them on it. So sometimes those things get lost.
Excuse me.
And then we have these boys are bronze.
Yes.
Once again, we have the sensation of 2 a.m. and you have to get up for work.
They're giving me the vibe of the duo bosses from the original Dark Souls here, but I can't remember their names.
Ornstein and Smungus, or
Yeah,
Smo, or
no,
Smow, or whatever
no,
the hell you want to pronounce
Smungus.
it.
We're going
Smungus
with Smungus.
is my personal favorite. Ornstein and Smungus.
Ornstein and Smungus.
These guys are not nearly quite the same in size and scale and scope, but they're both there. And, one of them clearly is it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm raising the cheese in the fridge. And the other one isn't. So,
Yeah.
Oh, man. You could go through like an entire wheel of cheese with that kitchen knife.
That kitchen knife is certainly a phrase you could use for an axe that's roughly the size of a Volkswagen, yes. Okay, on
I
this
said
one,
cheese, and Anka has now come to say hi to chat.
You've made
I made
the
a mistake.
classic error. Okay, on this one, you've done the stuff on this that you really needed to do to make it work. I'm gathering here you're using a bronze kind of paint. I know that I know Pro Acryl makes a light bronze, and that's kind of the color that you've got going on here, so I'm going to assume that's in the neighborhood of what you used. I would love to see just the barest hint of some highlights in a plain silver for some. Yes, you're using true metallics. Yes, true metallics go ahead and give you the shine. You can still do highlights with true metallics. So like giving it a brighter kind of reflection off of light sources would be good. And you can do that with just like a brighter metallic. So again, something like silver would do the job there, and just kind of dry brush over the metal bits. Try to be careful around the fabric that you've got there. On masking things off, in case you wanted to go that far, and I've done this for airbrushing, silly putty is an astonishingly good masking material for painting, and it's inexpensive and broadly available.
Follow us for more illegal masking tips.
I don't remember where I got that tip, but it is an astonishingly useful tip. And it's reusable. Thank you, Hedgehog.
Here's the secret big silly putty doesn't want you to know.
Okay, Red, this came to me as... so we had the wet nurse, and this was... I think this is labeled as Baby Murgo?
Yeah.
Fighter of the dry
I
nurse?
think Eric has done a fantastic job on Baby Murgo, who you never actually see in the game.
Okay.
That's the joke.
Okay. Okay.
I'm grumbling.
Yeah. Okay. Who do we have up now? Okay. This is one that came to me that was actually asking for advice. Very pointedly. Zarvek came to me and said, I want to do some OSL on this lantern, and they were looking for how to do it. So this feels very Gandalf-y to me. I'm assuming, considering the slot in this, that this is like a... this is an early edition of the Lord of the Rings war game from GW, maybe from 20 years back or so. I wouldn't know, but that feels like what this is. Okay, so he was asking me how should he try to tackle the lantern on this to get a light source out of it. Okay, Zarvek submitted this to me. Free blades. I don't know free blades. I'm sorry, man. Okay, so the questions that I have, if you're going to try to do OSL with this, what tools do you have available? And like I have a couple of different pieces of advice on this. Depending on how you approach it, they'll both get the job done. If you have an airbrush, this is much easier. Hello, cat. What I would start off by doing is taking something like a white ink and filling in the inside of your lantern there. No airbrush. Okay. Fill like I said, the interior of that with something like a white ink so that it's very bright. And you can put... you're using speed paints on this already. So like a very thinned out kind of yellow over the top of the white there so that it's still bright and has a yellow tinge to it, but it's not broad zealot yellow or whatever you're using. That'll give the interior some brightness to it. From there, I might be able to demonstrate this a little bit later. I would take a dry brush with a yellow, like a true yellow, not a speed paint yellow, and I would put the brush near your lantern and then stroke it away from that in, whatever directions. And anything that your brush can hit, that's what it needs to be hitting. And just hit it with a dry brush of that, and that will give the illusion of that light coming off of it, and as long as it's in the same color family as what you're starting with. I think. I've done it that way before myself.
That's fair, but can you go back to the image before this?
He has a
So
book.
I was looking at this. I thought this was just like Gandalf with cool sunglasses.
Okay.
He has a book for beating people with. This is very important.
Look, you said it was early Games Workshop. These are perfectly reasonable assumptions.
He's not wrong. Now, it turns out it's not, but... Okay, Zarvek is happy with that. Again, Adam, I know that you've been doing the painting and painting advice thing a lot longer than I have, so any input you have, I'd appreciate.
Yeah, I don't really do OSL unless I'm using my airbrush. So
Fair.
for the most part, it's just infinitely easier to do it that way. Um, but I've not. Yeah, I mean, generally the thought is generally, oh, I'm going to just take this yellow and then. But you're right in saying it's better to start with something white, and then what I've been doing lately is I use a white opaque to kind of make the glow part, and then I color it whatever color I want it to be, and I usually use a little bit of speed paint through an airbrush, or sometimes I'll just use airbrush paint too. But yeah, you need to, if you want it to look like it's a bright glow, you need to do it over you know white first is best. And if you're like, I've got display painter friends who are, award winners who will disagree with me on that, and that's fine. I'm trying to get stuff done on the tabletop. So, I do it in a way that makes things a lot quicker.
Right. That is one thing that we're going to go ahead and make sure that everybody is aware of. Yes, we had Vince on a couple of months ago. Adam is a very competent painter, but he is not aiming for that same level of competition painting. So
Oh, no.
you're going to get different advice here, and that's great. Because
I'm a tabletop guy. If it's not for gaming, then I've done one display piece 2-3 years ago. I entered it at the Nova Open in 2023.
Oh, God. I remember watching that video. I could have sworn it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, no, it's
Entropy's catching up with
weird,
us.
Weird how time works, but it is the bug did not bite me. Or if it did, I was somehow immune. I didn't. You know what I mean? I think that I had some friends who were like, maybe he's going to get into display painting, and it didn't stick. So yeah.
So I always have the anxiety about, I think I'm okay, but then I look at other people's work and like, maybe I'm not that great. I am aware of
compare to yourself.
Yes, comparison is the thief of joy.
Exactly.
Let's see. Okay. Hedgehog of the Black Pants Legion has submitted us these. These have a name on them. These are from Steel Rift, from a gaming company. He put it in the thing.
Death Ray Designs.
Yes, Death Ray Designs. Thank you. I'm not familiar with Steel Rift, and I know that this is probably a little bit condescending to say about it up front, but I like these models a lot. They do feel very much like chibi Battletech.
See, I was going to say it feels like... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I like the simplicity. I've painted 4 different... I don't think you would call them war bands. I don't know what you would call them, but I've painted 4 different groups of the Steel Rift models so far. And I know this is primarily a BattleTech publication broadcast. I generally prefer the Steel Rift sculpts a little bit more. I don't know why. I just seem to do that.
I could probably answer that question for you if
they're very clean, and I like that, and they're kind of bigger, more pleasing shapes.
And they have sharper edges, and the details aren't quite
Show
so
him
soft.
the 1911 Hunchback.
We are not doing that right now.
I don't know why. I don't know who that Catalyst works with on their plastics, but I wish that they would maybe find. I wish they'd find Archon or. Who's the other ones? I don't know.
Whoever it is OPR is using in Poland, I wish they'd use them instead of whatever they're using in I know it's in China or Taiwan. I don't know who they're using.
I also like Steel Rift as a game. One of the things I love about it is the fact that you just don't miss, because you don't roll to hit. It is assumed that you hit because you are a technological device, with probably robot machine learning, and you're firing at something the size of a barn. So it's unlikely that you miss. What it's more about is how the person who's being hit, how they deal with that. That's really more the important thing.
That does make sense.
It's a fun concept.
I do still love the idea that, and this is never published anywhere when it comes to BattleTech, but the the breakdown of technology is to the point that your targeting stuff technically works, but maybe not so well. Or as in one of the videos that Tex made, referring to, my planet lost the ability to make actuators for our autocannon, so I have to shoot it with a ripcord.
I just love
Then
the
add in,
absolute-
depending on your mech warrior, how much moonshine and heat stroke they're currently dealing
That
with.
too. That too. If you're far enough out in the periphery, your heat vest is just your skivvies.
I just appreciate the absolute chonk of sad crotch wide boy on the left.
Yeah, they are definitely. This particular faction is very chonky, and I've painted these guys myself. I forget.
Nice.
I think they're Authority, maybe. I
They
painted
look-
mine like if you saw the movie The Creator.
I have not.
It's the one. It's a sci-fi film from maybe 3-4 years ago. It's got I can't think of his name, but it's Denzel Washington's son who was in Tenet, and he's like in Southeast Asia, and there's like robots and androids and different kind of things going on. And the androids, there's like androids that look like people, but they have that, like, you can see through their head. It's like their face is completely natural, but their sides of their head look robotic. And it was one of those movies that the story was like but the graphics and like the special effects looked amazing. And in that, there's an attack on a village, and it's the U.S. Army that's attacking the village, and it's just a tank the size of like a city block. And it's just rolling through the desert, or not the desert, the jungle, and it's just firing all these missiles. And unlike what we expect U.S. Army stuff to look like now, in the future, U.S. Army looks very corporate. And it's like this giant tank that's like white with blue accents, and it says U.S. Army in like lowercase letters, like it's like a bank that's trying to trick you into, thinking that they're cool. And it's just an amazing scene. This thing just crunching through the jungle and just firing all these missiles into this, and people running in. But it's just, it's like a moving like TJ Maxx branch. And
the moment that you said that it's like a bank trying to look cool, I'm just thinking, oh yeah, okay, they clearly wrote that in Helvetica.
Oh no, well but it's all lowercase. It's, well, I don't know. I'm a font nerd. I would not say a Helvetica, but you're in the right area.
Oh, if it's low effort, it's just Calibri.
I will hear nothing against Calibri. It is a very useful font for writing in.
Sure. If you don't like serifs, it's great.
I run my missile boat in nothing but web dings and Comic Sans.
Woo!
With these specific models, though, as somebody who has a personal vendetta against the color yellow, these look really good.
I wanted to say something about that. Not just this is a good-looking set of yellow. I also want to point this out. We have good-looking yellow, and we have black panel lining, and the panel lining isn't spilling over onto the panels. That is a tremendous pain in the ass with yellow. So, Hedgehog, applause. Very nice. I appreciate this.
The cockpits also, with those
With the
highlights
panel
at
lines,
the edges
yeah.
there. Yeah, that's clean. These are very, like...
They're
not
giving
just
you
show floor coated.
Shane
They're
Train, they're giving you Exo Squad vibes because they feel like they're not that tall.
Yeah, they feel like a tractor dealership show floor vignette. And I mean that in the best possible
never
way.
once in my life wondered what John Deere is doing in BattleTech, but I know they're there somewhere. And now you've given me this thought.
Now a part of Quicksell.
Before you ask, no, I don't have time.
Damn. Again, very nice on these, Hedgehog. Moving on, who do I have here? This came from Night Owl. This is Night Owl giving me hell over the whole "we're taking pictures in our refrigerators now" thing. And
No, man.
I don't
These
know.
robots brought the sauce.
They're very sour about the situation. You can tell by all the vinegar in the fridge. Also, Kikomon. So I don't know what the thing beside Kikomon is. I would have guessed shoji, but that's not a big enough bottle for shoji. Rice vinegar, other rice vinegar and Worcestershire sauce. Sure.
I am having a cultural stroke right now because how do you have Worcestershire sauce that isn't
with
Lee and
Korean-
Perrins?
How
How is it not Lee and Perrins?
I want you to look at that and then recognize, I think that's Korean below the word Worcestershire sauce.
No, I think it's Japanese.
Is it?
I'm twitching.
Yeah,
Korean's got a
it's
lot
called
more
streaming,
ovals,
but okay.
Thank you, Squick.
No, let me pull up the translator.
Really?
Hell yeah, I need to know.
Who keeps Worcestershire sauce in the fridge? I don't know, Sentient Ryan, but thank you for the first time chat there.
You're welcome in.
It's Japanese, Eric says. It's Japanese. Okay, one of the 3 fucking fonts of Japanese. Okay, fonts. I said fonts. We're going with fonts now for the 3 written language systems.
You're going to be
Japanese.
very surprised, but apparently that text translates to Worcestershire sauce. Yeah.
Okay.
Hope that helps.
Okay, Adam, I'm
I don't know
sorry.
what I
I have
expect.
been bullied by chat now a few times. Somebody said, "Show him, you coward," whenever I said something about not making you look at the fucking, what was it? The hunchback
1911
model with the
hunchback.
1911 on its shoulder. Yeah, one of our viewers is also a modeler like I am, and he made a hunchback with a Colt 1911 for its AC-20. So here it is.
I think this is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. There is nothing cursed about this.
Not a bit. Not a bit.
This is fine.
This
I don't know what a 1911 is. Sorry.
Okay, so it's the U.S.
Pistol,
military
American
issued
famous.
handgun that was used from 1911 until roughly 1985. It's a meme within certain cultures about people that really love this gun, despite the fact that it's dramatically outdated.
Gotcha.
Regardless,
Not really a gun guy, but yeah.
that's fair.
That's fair.
It's still,
And what we have learned today, chat, is the best way to avoid terrible BPL memes is to just be completely ignorant of them. And that is
That's
a
fair.
thing to be lauded.
I didn't know that was an option.
It is. It absolutely is.
Night Owl is a very nice job on the paint here. I believe what Night Owl has done here, and this is absolutely a very good tabletop kind of technique, is it looks like we started over a dark, perhaps black primer, and we've dry brushed our base coats on over that, and that works great. Like, to get your whites down, like on the Urban Mech here, and honestly, dry brushing or sponging for this kind of thing is going to get the pigment where light would be able to hit it, and if you can't reach it, probably a beam of sunshine's not going to either. Now, I will say, we do have some fuzz here on the Urban Mech.
I was going to ask.
This could just be dust. I don't know how long he's been sitting on this mech. We also have grass. I have complicated feelings about static grass on mech bases.
Importantly, though, they've done a good job of keeping the static grass to the base and not coming out of the robot.
That's true, and also not on the rim. I would get, well, no, these are CGL models, so he wouldn't have done this on the base and then glued him back down unless he cut him off first. In any event, I like these. These are good. Again, yellow on the cockpits because yellow's evil, and I'm always going to give you props for that. And there they are from the side. And the back on the... Yeah, like I said, the dry brushing technique on this works nicely.
Yeah.
Okay, then I was sent this by T-Square, who's apparently worked through his backlog, and now he can do stuff like this, where he sent me this not a Zaku boy, no Zaku. But of course, it's in a refrigerator standing on a container of gochujang, because fridges are just light boxes on this stream now, I guess.
You joke, but
I mean,
it works.
Adam, what's the weirdest thing you've ever seen someone use as a light box?
Fridge. Yeah. I don't
Was that before
Here
tonight?
today, you weirdos.
No, I mean it was about 20 minutes ago. I don't know. I'm not sure why it's Like, I made a whole video about how you just get near a window and then just a piece of paper, and it's
And
Works really
meanwhile, my audience
Yeah.
just like, what if fridge?
Yeah.
Hey, the fridge has a light in it.
Well, yeah, but there's almost nothing else. That's what's weird in this particular shot. Like, does this person only eat the gochujang? I don't, because there's nothing else in there. Like, our fridge is full of stuff all the time,
Right?
and you know, because that's where we keep the food mostly. And so, yeah, I
Hey,
don't know.
that's what that thing's for?
I mean, I guess if you have a second fridge that you just use for photography purposes, that's weird. But you know, okay.
Yes.
Make sure you don't
photography
put that
fridge.
in the photo fridge, hon.
Right. Yeah. No, you don't want to do that. I mean, in Wisconsin, and I don't know if they do this in other places, but in Wisconsin, a lot of people have a fridge or a freezer in their garage.
Yes,
And
got to
if
have
it's a
those
fridge,
garage
it's-
beers.
Right. Exactly. That's where you keep your garage beers. But we don't have a fridge in the garage because our garage is not what I would call structure. Well, it's structurally sound, but it can't keep out the raccoons. So you know.
Oh
No, that
man, no!
tracks.
If they got the garage beers,
Yeah, no, you don't want drunk raccoons.
I kind of do.
Well, I
but
mean, from a distance, maybe.
yeah, well, that's the thing. I am not near Wisconsin, so I figure I'm probably safe.
Yeah.
Dr. Osophilia is asking, Squick, if you haven't been using your fridge to keep food in it, what have you been using it for?
Normal amount. Next question.
Well, he didn't say taking photographs of miniatures, so okay. Okay, UNC Samurai has submitted to us Minas Tirith because this is a cool Lego model, and I don't have the $500 to spend on the Minas Tirith set that I have found that it costs right now, but it's a really cool set, and also I do want to make the point here that all of the members of the Fellowship are just fucking giants. Just look at the
Yeah,
fucking size of them.
That scale is not ideal.
But it is really cool. Oh, that's where the drinks went.
What?
Top right.
Oh, yeah. There we go. It's Gatorade. It's
Yeah.
it's
So
like
you clear out the fridge.
the
so
low
you can use it
sugar,
for
not no
photography.
sugar Gator. Let's see. We got some.
No, Parrot. Go back to the Legos.
But there's books in the back, and there's things to look at. We have several
Like the Legos.
Oh, fine. I won't focus on the things in the background, like these chairs that have mismatched upholstery.
Legos good. We appreciate you for submitting this. We are living vicariously through you and your Lego purchasing decisions.
Yes, and also your Chessex gaming mat. I have one of these. I don't think
It's
I've
got
ever
squares.
used it. I think I've used it one time for a D&D 4th edition campaign. That's how long ago that was. And see, here's Gandalf again in front of, walls. That gate's very small for Gandalf. Everything else is to scale with Gandalf, and then tiny gate.
Yeah, it's a small thing, but I like what they did with that little window area, or the little shrine window on the right side.
Oh, yeah. It's the fact that it's just a minifig in there is...
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's cool.
Okay. Okay, the inside of this is pretty great.
Oh, good lord.
I do want to make the point here that we have the Steward of Gondor here, whose name I've somehow lost for the moment.
Evil Greg.
Red, name of the Steward of Gondor?
Oh God, it's no good asking me.
Yeah, Evil Greg.
Evil
I
Greg.
worked today. I have no brain cells
Denethor.
left.
Thank you, Denethor. Chad has
Yes,
got
I
me
knew
with
that.
Denethor.
Thank you, Cookie.
Now everybody
And
in
Aiden,
chat
and
is
Mini Hulk,
just
and
writing,
Grimos.
writing Denethor down. I do want to make a point here. Denethor does have cherry tomatoes because that's the thing Denethor's here for, is to eat cherry tomatoes in the most confusing way possible.
What? No. What?
What?
I hate it.
Yeah, well, I hate the way he eats tomatoes.
I'd successfully managed to block that out.
Well, I've dug it up. And again, here we have the top of Minas Tirith, and then we also, here's a bed. And here, look, we've got the archives where Gandalf spent 35 years trying to look something up.
I can see why it is priced as it is with that many details thrown in.
Yeah. Let's
I will add that question to the list.
Oh, and then we have Denethor jumping off of the end. Wow, the fact that they made that a part of the set that's fantastic. Denethor on fire jumping off of the top of the fortress. That's great. That's great. Okay, now we're into my stuff. We're almost to the part where
first,
I put it on.
We've got a first-time chat from Epic Redeemer. Oh, cool. Jane's Fighting Ships. I had that volume for 1905 to 1906 that I stumbled across at the flea market.
That's a cool flea market. That's a great flea market find.
Yeah. No notes. That just sounds pretty cool.
So this is a Thunderbolt I was working on today. I already had it white, and I just decided to go ahead and do the thing that I usually do with white mechs and make it Free World Guard. And I wasn't happy with how it was turning out. Like, the grays on it weren't quite coming out as smooth as I wanted. You can see that I've done a little bit of volumetric lighting on this with the blue-gray on one side of it and the lighter colors on the other side. And that was doing okay, but the blends were just a little bit streaky because I was probably using the wrong white paint to mix into things. So then I decided we're going to do the sponge method of damage, and I did that and then just went in and picked out some white dots in the middle of the brown.
This has the rust pattern of industrial machinery operated by the ocean for like 30 years, where there's just huge chunks of paint that are gone and it's rusty and no one cares because it works good enough.
Yes. Yes. I'm happy enough with this. I don't love it, which is why I went through the trouble of putting the damage on it to hide the parts I didn't like. It kind of obscures that. So that's a tip for you. If you ever aren't entirely satisfied with the paint job, just add some battle damage. Nobody will question it. And okay, I was much happier with this Griffin that I did. This was from the Legendary Mech Pack. Because you can tell because he's got the two missile things on his shoulders. And this, again, was me playing with high contrast and volumetric lighting. Much happier with how this turned out. Because, again, I did the same thing with there's light on one side with bright highlights and dark on the other side, but I really pushed the darks darker and the brights brighter. And I like it. There is very much a look to competition painting pieces where you will see this kind of stuff done. And I'm always chasing that, and I am not there. But this is one of the few cases where I felt like I've captured the spirit of it. And do you find that's typically true, where like competition painting, when you get the chance to look at it, there's kind of a trend in it for a lot of this kind of thing?
I don't think I know what you mean.
A lot of
times. What do you mean?
It feels like the pieces that win a lot of competitions lately are the ones that are really pushing a very high contrast, heightened realism, where like it's realistic in some ways, but then the lighting effects are definitely more of a, like I said, a heightened realist effect where you know that the shadows shouldn't necessarily be that color, but it makes it a more dramatic kind of framing to it. And
yeah, I find that a lot of display painting, stuff for competition and things like that is just not to my liking in many situations. Like, it's not the way I would paint it. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm so much better than this. It's just like for example, non-metallic metal. Non-metallic metal in my mind never actually looks like metal. I've been fooled once by non-metallic metal, and it was Sam. It was my good friend Sam.
I was going to say, was it Sam or Vince?
Yeah, it was Sam, and it was incredibly subtle as well. But like normal, like non-metallic metal amongst display painters seems to be like a flex. You know what I mean? You do it to show like how, but it just doesn't look good in my opinion. Personally, I'm always interested in regular old metallics because it's faster and easier for me trying to get things on the tabletop, but it actually, when you turn or move or even turn your head and look at the model, the specular highlights and the fall offs move with your vision, as they're supposed to. You know what I mean? It's like, in comic books when they used to draw, what's his name? Colossus from the X-Men.
Yes.
He's all chrome. And so you draw him to look chrome. But the thing is that you don't turn your head or you don't move the page and have the chrome highlights and shadows move with him, because it's just a two-dimensional thing and you like look at it. But now we're trying to do that same kind of like fake metal effect with paints on a three-dimensional object. And like there are people that do it amazingly, like as far as the blending. There's a guy named Flame On Miniatures who, I don't know how he does his blends so perfectly, but they're just like I don't want to say cartoonish, because that's denigrating the work, but it is it's not real. Like
Right.
in no way is it real, but you look at it and you go like, wow, that's compelling and interesting, but it doesn't look anything anywhere near natural. But I don't know anybody else in the world who can do it like he does. And so yeah, it's just a weird kind of flex in my opinion, and it's never been my sort of thing. So like super high contrast, I have a tendency to paint my stuff not super high contrast because I just don't like it. And people will go, yeah, but it's gotta be high contrast so you can see it on the table. I'm like, oh, I can see it on the table. It's right there. Look at
Yeah.
it. And you know what I mean? I don't know. I like things. I like to look at my models at about a foot away or closer. And if they look like mud from 6 feet away, well, you can get closer.
Yeah. And that's absolutely fair.
fair.
Like this example on screen right now was me chasing that very particular look. And it is a very I would not use this on tape. I wouldn't want to try to paint anything this much for regular tabletop use.
Sure.
So, like, I totally see where you're coming from on that.
Chat is also being very, very much thinking along the same lines. Non-metallic metals is fancy looking, but never tricks me. It looks great from one angle, works a fixed view when you're doing photos of the mini, and that's about it. So yeah, it seems that is a popular opinion.
Sam painted a guy who had like a huge, like square-headed hammer, like a big, huge, giant one that he had like sort of resting on his shoulder, and the side of the hammer, like think Thor's hammer, but way bigger with a much longer, kind of haft or whatever. But it had it was smooth on both sides, the sides, and I thought it was metallic, but it was, because it was kind of reflecting like the guy's head and stuff like that a little bit, but it wasn't like over the top, and it also wasn't like super, I don't know. It worked out really well, and I was like, and then I asked him, I'm like, is that metallic or not metallic? And he's like, oh, it's not metallic. I'm like, oh, that was literally the first time that it had that I had been fooled.
For those of you
So
that
you're
aren't
saying
familiar,
chance.
Sam Lenz, remarkable artist, multi-gold. How many Golden Demons does he have?
He has won more painting awards than any other North American, but I don't know how many total. But between Golden Demons and Crystal Brushes back when they used to do that, and plus all kinds of other stuff and things like that. But yeah, he's a very, very good painter. And I've known him since, God, it's been more than 20 years. I think I've known him since like 2004 or maybe 2006, somewhere around there.
I do remember the story about how you met him you said it was a tattoo parlor, didn't you?
Yeah. I was getting a tattoo, and he was one of the other guys working there.
And just look up
Thanks
and
so
say, is that a Golden Demon?
Yeah, he had his first Golden Demon like on his little shelf in his work area.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you so much, Necromancer.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it, and
Welcome
thanks for
aboard.
being
You've made a terrible mistake.
Well, no, they've been here 13 months.
Well, they know they've made a terrible mistake.
They've made a repeated terrible mistake.
That's true. This was
And I'm happy to have them.
This was another example of a less extreme kind of contrasty look I was trying on something, and I kept going back and forth on this thing. Guys, don't do this. I think I spent like 2 solid days trying to make one Space Marine look as good as I possibly could, and frankly, I'm pretty happy with it, but cameras are not your friend when you're trying to photograph miniatures unless you like want to break out the big camera that isn't on your phone, and then you can probably get good pictures of it. And Adam
Hey,
can...
Para,
What?
you tried sticking it in the fridge.
God damn it.
Yeah. That sounds like
He
a no.
looks really good though, and the way I know that this particular Space Marine looks really good is that when I first saw it, when you posted it in your server, I was like, "Damn, that is a good-looking Space Marine." Before I went, "Ugh, Ultramarines."
Well, here's the trick. You got to make it a crossover episode. Mix things up a little, get some outside influence. Then you too can go plus ultra.
There we go. I do want to go ahead and say, hey guys, like the U emblem on all these, because you know U is for ultra. I use an acrylic marker for that, so keep that in the back of your mind. Like acrylic markers are
Wait,
great.
is that legal?
Yeah, do it. This was the cheap Hobby
Everything's
Lobby
legal
set.
if you don't get caught.
This is the cheap Hobby Lobby set of acrylic markers too. Oh, okay. Other things I've been working on. I'm having yes, because my printer broke very, very hard in the last week. Now, twice. I am not capable of actually making any test prints, so I haven't released these yet. But I have renders of the two latest things I've been working on. I'm really happy with the way that this proxy for the Locust came out. Also, I accidentally my way into some good render settings, so I was happy with this. And then because I made the Locust, I thought, what would the Locust 2C look like? And I used different techniques to get to it, so I did it, and he has many, many, many more polygons to him, but he's still recognizably evolved from the first one.
So, yeah, the Locust 2C is giving me, I don't know, like StarCraft 2 vibes?
That's fair.
Where the Locust 1 is very much, okay, a bit of a throwback, but Future Cop LAPD.
That feels like a deep cut.
I think it is, because it wasn't a great game, but it was fun, and it had, here's your giant fuck-off police chicken walker.
Yes. I would love to
And-
see this thing doing some policing.
Like, it has
You
the
need to
two
paint it in white and blue and then write police on the side in lowercase, like it's a bank trying to make friends with you.
Well, as it turns out, this
That's a good
was, in
idea.
fact, the last thing I was able to print before the printer decided to give me the double deuce. So, is that it? Okay, that's the last of that stuff. So let's go over to the camera, and there we go.
We are 10 minutes until Us or Ain't, just
Us or
to
Ain't.
let you know.
So those of you that don't know, Us or Ain't is a game that we play on this channel where a random quote is selected from just entirely too many quotes that have been saved over the course of a little over 4 years on this channel. And you get to wager on whether you think that quote comes from a person generally associated with this show, or if it's from Ain't, or you get the option to burn your goob as though you don't care about it, and you can throw it in the goob hole, and it'll just go into the stack.
Though, before you burn your goob, I am expecting in like a week or two for there to potentially be another goob drive, just saying.
Drive.
Also, we're already working on the stuff for Christmas goob drive. You guys are going to love it.
It's July. Is it Christmas? It's Christmas in July.
Well, we're going to have the July one for Midsummer because it's the earliest I can get to it after all of the stuff I've been doing this year. But I already know what the Christmas goob drive is. And I think chat's going to love it. I think chat's going to love the Christmas goob drive.
That might be a terrifying concept.
I
Okay.
might need you to do a special paint for me of a miniature if you are willing. But we'll talk about that
I'm
later.
willing. I'm probably willing. Okay, so now that we are through the submissions, let's go ahead and get started on things. Adam, thank you for being with us tonight, and thank you for putting up with the first 52 minutes of the show.
No problem.
So what we wanted to hit on tonight, just to give the audience some context here, Adam has been doing the YouTube game now for 13 years.
Mm-hmm. Started in 2013, March.
Now, for what it's worth, your YouTube page says 2011, so you can claim that back 15 years.
So I started, technically the name Tabletop Minions started as me trying to start a wargaming club here in town. that was the name of the wargaming club, was going to be Tabletop Minions, and then it did not take off. And then when I decided to start my YouTube channel, I'm like, well, I already have the domain and I have the YouTube. I just used, and I had the logo designed and everything, so I was just like, well, I'll just do that.
Was it the same logo?
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and get that on screen. There's the logo. So I have an idea of what your YouTube channel is technically about. I'd like to hear you explain it to the audience because, like, I know how I'd say it.
Mm-hmm. It is the main goal, the main mission is to teach people about the wargaming and miniature painting hobby, and to help facilitate people getting into those two hobbies. When I first started the channel in 2013, I was basically just trying to teach myself video production. And so I was like, well, I have this hobby where I like to do wargaming and stuff, so I'll just make my videos about that, because then I will, actually continue to make videos about the thing that I enjoy, as opposed to just kind of sitting there and going, I don't know what I should do. So I did that, and it was sometime around 2015, the autumn of 2015, where I decided, I should try to do this every week as opposed to doing it randomly, which I had been doing before that. So, and I should also come up with a mission, and that was the getting people into the hobby and helping them to learn how to paint and stuff like that. So I do focus predominantly on beginner things. I will sometimes make a video about something, and people will say, I'll see some people in the comments who are like, well, who doesn't know that? And then, I'll be like, well, these 20 people in the comments who just said, oh, I didn't know that, those people. And a big portion of it is because if you've been watching me for a while, at this point, you may be an intermediate, but I'm still doing beginner stuff because I'm still focusing on getting new people into the hobby. So that's kind of the idea overall.
You're forever going to have young people who are today years old when they get into something or
Absolutely.
have their first lesson in something. It's
Absolutely.
really important to have that content.
I guess I didn't really realize I was on the wagon that early, because I think I started watching you in roughly 2016. But that was whenever I moved into a job that gave me a little bit of free time and privacy to put things on in the background so that I could listen to things while I worked. But I've always appreciated that your channel, like, you've hit on what I think is really the core of it, but I think it does a little bit more than that, because I think one of the things you come back to a lot is about building communities and how to maintain those.
I wish I could do more in that situation. I still get a lot of people. I feel like the number one comment is always, yeah, but how do I get people to play with? And it's, you know what I mean? And the problem is that it is literally be the change that you want to see in the world. If you want people to play Alpha Strike, or Steel Rift, or any game that's not like the one that everybody plays, then you generally kind of have to build and paint two forces, which is why it's a better idea to try that with skirmish games versus something where you have 300 models per side, like some big weird historical or something like that. And then you just kind of have to start teaching people, maybe if you play at the local shop, then you're like, hey, you interested in trying this out? I got two forces. You pick one you think looks coolest, and I'll run the other one, and I'll teach you. And we've also backed that up as well in our game design, me and Vince, because other than the first one where we just weren't thinking, every game that we've done, basically every normal game that we've done, not the zines, but every spring normal game that we've done since has been has had solo and co-op available. So,
and now you've activated the trap card, so I have to ask, how many games have you made so far? Insofar as the big releases, not necessarily the zines, because I know that makes for a longer list.
Not a ton longer. So we've produced a game. We come out with a game every spring, and we've done that since 2021. So there was Rain in Hell, there was Space Station Zero, was Majestic 13, there was Death Wizards, there was Rain and Iron, and then this year was Repent Ye Foolish Gods. So that's 6. And then there have been 3 micro games in the zines, 2023, 2024, 2025. We'll be doing another one this fall. 2023 was Tanks for the Apocalypse. 2024 was The Great Goblin Argle Bargle. And 2025 was
Chrome Rangers.
Chrome Rangers. Yep. So yeah, the games that go into the zine are generally not solo and co-op because we're limited more by page count in that situation, because we do try to produce them in a way where you could print them if you wanted to and then fold them and staple them and make them into like a little zine. We don't just make so that means that also it has to be, pages have to be in multiples of 4, because you can't just have like 2 pages, because
you're making cloth.
Yeah. They're called signatures in the printing world, and so signatures are 4, and so in at least in this process, so that's the way it works. There are other processes where signatures are 8, or even bigger sometimes.
If you get far enough back, you just start calling them quattros.
Right. So the thing that's interesting is that we can't really fit a lot of extra like AI, and when we're talking about AI, we're talking about the good kind. Where you're like, this is how this model will work. The rules is usually basically an if-then statement in any kind of solo type game. It's okay, well, is this bad guy doing this? Like, are they in combat? No. Okay, then can they get into combat? No. Okay, well, then can they do this? No. And that kind of thing. So
an algorithm of behavior.
To some degree, yeah. To have that extra rule set, added into the game, just it bloats page count a little bit when we're trying to get something done within, say, 24 to 36 pages max. 36 is a little bit too long. We've done one that way, and we're trying to stay under that. So the next one that we're working on is also just basically a straight versus style game, and the other ones have been too. Now, the ones that are in Snarl have a tendency to be, technically in the Great Goblin Argle Bargle, you could have up to 20 different models on your team. They're all goblins, but they basically all work as one unit. So most of the games that we've produced so far for Snarl have all been single unit games. In Tanks for the Apocalypse, you ran a tank, just one 28mm scale tank. You ran a mech in Chrome Rangers, but it was also 28mm scale, so your mechs were between like 5 and 8 inches tall. But you just had one, and your opponent had one, and that one was just a straight 1-to-1 game. Whereas Tanks of the Apocalypse, we designed it so that it could be played up to 10, and it is a hoot when you play with that many. The year after it came out, we ran an event at Adepticon where we had 3, and it's played on a 3x3. So you've got 10 or 28mm tanks on a 3x3 board. We had 3 3x3 boards. So we had 30 people.
Wow.
And it was a hoot.
And for those of you in the audience, Us or Ain't is currently live. You have 1 minute left to gamble your goob.
And we did talk.
Gambling. I will do this.
Sorry, I got lost in the storytelling because I don't know if anyone's told you this, but you are very interesting to listen to.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that that's part of maybe at least some degree of success on YouTube, is having the ability to tell a story and to be able to communicate generally in a way that people enjoy. Personality can go a long way sometimes, and it just is the way it works. Unfortunately, there are people out there who make some really great content, like they have really like good ideas, or they have but if they can't elucidate that information properly or put it into a format that people are interested in, then maybe YouTube in that situation is not the. And I tell people this all the time. I'm like, if YouTube is not what you think you can do, then think about a blog, think about Instagram. There's a lot of different types of options out there for content creation.
And especially since blogs seem to be coming back into vogue right now, as people are trying
to some degree, yeah.
People are trying to get away from the force-fed algorithms of Facebook and YouTube and such things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, I had another question. What was it? Okay. Adam, as we're talking.
The quote.
Okay, what's the quote?
Got a quote.
Quote number 165. Life is like a WBPL stream. It's kind of vulgar. Parallax. Who could that be? Art, back from October of 2022. I do
God, we've been
I
believe.
doing
get
this a while.
goob. I get goob.
Yes. Goob number go up.
Goop number go
Behold,
up.
audience, I've stolen more of it.
That's all right. You'll lose it on Sunday.
Dastard.
Ah,
Yeah,
crap.
that's true. That's true. Okay, Adam. So for the people that are not immediately familiar with you, and I know, and you know, your focus is largely on miniature wargaming. Do you
Yes.
do tabletop gaming outside of that?
Not really. No, I don't. Frankly, I don't know. I don't enjoy board games in most situations. My wife enjoys board games, and some of our friends do. And I think that some of the board games that they enjoy are literally some of the world's most boring board games. It's like, I don't know if you're familiar with Mayfair Games. I think has gone out of business at least once, but I think they've been brought back again. And they made a series of train games, but not like Ticket to Ride or anything, like white knuckle exciting like that. Instead, it's these games like Empire Builder and Euro Rails and stuff like that, where you draw with a crayon on a board, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to try to take oranges to Detroit or whatever. And every once in a while on a Sunday, she'll be like, so we're playing, we're going to play one of the Rails games. You want to come over and play, do you want to go with me? And I'm like, no, I do not. And it's like 6 hours. You know what I mean? It's just not my thing. I'm not interested.
I think most of the board games I enjoy have miniatures with them, or they're Arkham Horror.
Which
So,
there
I
are
hear what you
miniatures
say.
for that.
I hear what you say. I'm with you, but I think part of it's also a perspective shift. I've played a fair amount of Iron Dragon. 100% it's in there. You get the crayon. You're drawing things out. It's just the fantasy bit. You have to go in there and you have to play the game wrong if you want to have a good time. Where it's like, well, you guys are all trying to make money. I'm gonna make the underground super tunnel.
I find the best way to play it wrong is to stay home and do something else.
Hey,
Usually
that's
paint.
fair.
You know what I mean? So, and I don't begrudge anyone. I'm not saying people are wrong in what they like. I'm just saying it's not for me.
No, that's reasonable.
So I don't. It's not my thing. I played some D&D back in like my first like nerd game. And when I say nerd game, I mean not like Sorry or Life or Monopoly or whatever. But my first nerd game was D&D, like in the 5th grade, and I played a little bit of that. And then in middle school, I got into BattleTech a little bit because a friend of mine had the original starter set, the one that had just the cardboard standees. And so,
And rather famously, your first painted miniature is an Atlas.
yes, yeah. And that was in the late 90s, probably, if I had to guess, or somewhere around there. Maybe the early 90s. Yeah, somewhere in the 90s. But yeah, I didn't really get into wargaming specifically until probably the mid to late 90s. And then I was very just kind of around the edges of it. And then I got more into it in the 2000s. And then in late 2000s, I started playing 5th edition 40K with some friends. And I had a Tau army. And then I sold the Tau army because they were kind of boring.
So
and then
you had the Tau army, and then you sold it with Sam shouting "Tau for sale" and giving the camera the middle finger.
Yeah. So back in the day at Adepticon, there used to be, and this is back before it was in Lombard, which is where it just recently moved from, and it moved to Milwaukee now. But before Lombard, before Schaumburg, it was in Lombard, Illinois, which is another kind of suburb to Chicago. And so I think my first year was 2010 or 2000. I think it was 2010 was my first year there, and I want to say probably 2011 or 12 is when I sold those Tau. And back then, the big 40K tournament would get done around 10 o'clock at night, and then they would amazingly take all of the terrain off of the tables, and then it just became like a big rummage sale, yard sale, boot sale, however you want to, whichever your region calls it, and people would just sit there and sell like stuff. And so it got ruined because eventually what would happen is that some local stores would roll up with all of their clearance stuff and be like, "Oh no, this is all stuff that was in my garage," and you're like, "Yeah, right."
Sure.
Yeah, but anyway, but nonetheless, it was just a great time to like just walk around and look at all kinds of cool stuff and buy stuff and haggle and all that kind of jazz. And everybody would just sort of stand there kind of quietly by their things. And I was like, I've never had a fear of public speaking, like never. So I would stand there and just be like a circus barker. I would just like, "Tao, get your Tao," and that kind of thing. And people would be like startled. And then, once Sam got a couple of drinks in him, because that happens as well, while we're there, we're all standing around and and so, yeah, that's kind of where that particular scene, and I filmed Sam just yelling "Tao for sale," and then I used it in a couple of videos, and it's become a bit of a meme. But I then moved into.
It's got good meme value.
Thank you. I moved into Chaos Space Marines because they were more fun to kit bash, I thought, than Tau, and I think I was right in that situation. So, but I've stuck with wargaming for a long time now at this point, and it has become my main two hobbies. Basically, are tabletop, wargaming, and what that includes, more the hobby stuff a little bit versus the gaming. I'm not a competitive player. And then my other hobby is photography / videography stuff. So
it seems to work out rather nicely for you.
It's that, and the fact that again, like, no fear of public speaking, and also that my day job was basically graphic design. Like, all those things do tie together quite well in trying to produce a YouTube channel. You know what I mean? Because I can make a decent thumbnail, I can do my own graphics and all that kind of stuff, and I'm doing my own editing. Like, I see a lot of channels that get to like a certain point where they're like, "Okay, I've got 50,000 subscribers. Now I'm going to get an editor." And I'm like, that's, if the more you have to pay someone to edit, and then now you have to make more money so that you can keep paying that person, and keep them employed in some fashion. And I've just always felt the more stuff that I can do by myself, then I don't have to have anyone else depend on me in that way. You know what I mean? So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like many things, there are pros and cons to doing things both ways, and knowing what it is you're intending to put out and your intended audience and how you want to do things is kind of critical.
Oh,
yeah. And I think that, if you're completely unable to edit, then it's unlikely probably that you got to the point where you can finally afford an editor.
It's true.
But I think that a lot of people are in a situation where they're like, "Well, I just don't enjoy it." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not like raring to edit necessarily. I don't just sit around and just edit things for fun, but I don't hate it, but it's still just getting work done." And if you can parlay it into a situation where you're like, "Okay, well, I've got to make more money to be able to pay this editor so I can do this," and you can take the time that you're not doing editing and do something else that's better, for the betterment of the channel and stuff like that, that's great, because editing does take time for sure. I also have a tendency to try to edit kind of simply. If you look at like what for quite a while was kind of the standard in like YouTube editing, if you think like Mr. Beast and stuff like that, which I don't really watch Mr. Beast stuff, but I've seen some bits. And as a person who's done editing, I'm just like, oh God, that must take for friggin' ever. I mean, just like, because every half a second there's another little weird animation and a sound and a thing and a this and a that, and just every one of those things, that the half a second that this little graphic popped up behind the guy's head and made a little wiggle or whatever, that took 20 minutes at least. You know what I mean? And so it's just, if you have to make an entire 15-minute video that way, it can take a week, versus when I don't do a lot of that, I can get a video done in a day. So that's at least as far as the editing is concerned. So.
Well, I mean, I can't begin to guess how much time it takes to add every smoke cloud behind every pachow.
That's a relatively simple thing. Yeah, that doesn't take too much work, thankfully.
Well, good. Then I don't have to worry about spending too
no.
much time on the sticker that I got on the water bottle every time I want to make a reference to something.
Wow.
What? Pachow.
That no, you've made me read that with my own ears.
I do that.
So we do have other additional questions. Barry, you got another one off the cuff? Should I go to the list? You got from chat?
I did have another question. I'm trying to remember what it was. So how about we go ahead and grab something off the list because I've lost it.
Well, we're going to start with the one that chat will be up in arms if we don't ask. But what is your favorite flavor of paint?
I'm not a paint licker, so I keep the brush mostly out of my mouth. The only time it's in my mouth is once in a great while after I've cleaned it off in the water. Then I will maybe point the tip sometimes by putting it in between my lips and just kind of pulling it, but it's kind of rare. But I'm not generally a paint licker. So although I've got a lot of friends who have definite opinions about, that new black from such and such company, it really tastes bad, or whatever. I don't know anyone that is like, oh, I love the taste of it.
No, that's
the
dichotomy of chat right now.
You'll appreciate the answer Vince gave us, and that was whichever paint has the most toxins in it tastes best.
I'm hoping that he makes it to 50. He's far healthier than I am, but he does he does maybe need a little bit more ventilation sometimes with his choice of airbrush primers. He loves the lacquer. I think it's the lacquer stuff from Mr. Surfacer or whatever. Yeah.
The self-leveling lacquer primer. Yeah.
It's really neat, and it hates human lungs.
Yeah, I just use regular old acrylic. I mainly use the Army Painter airbrush primer, and honestly I only use black. I almost never use anything else other than black. So
personally I've been using I use Badger primer, Stynylrez, but again it's that's a urethane primer, but it's again water based. So
sure.
Just the dichotomy of chat. We've got that is fair, Uncle Adam, alongside so full of paint, yum. So that's
our chat.
That's some excellent chatting there. That's splendid use of free will.
That's our circus.
To Square says, want to thank Uncle Adam for pointing out Flames of Orion. Been having fun with the campaign.
Nice.
Yeah, another cool mech game, small indie mech game from Steve from the Hive Scum podcast. And he did a successful Kickstarter, and it's also miniature agnostic, so you can use your BattleTech, you can use your whatever, but they've also, I think they do maybe have, I don't remember if they have STLs or not. I do have some models, but I bought them at Adepticon, and they were cast resin, so I don't know if they have STLs or not.
You have reminded me of the question that I had forgotten, and that was, you are a strong proponent for miniature agnostic systems. And
yes,
I think that is a fantastic way, as you were saying earlier, to try to get people to buy into a system. Like, OPR is particularly good at that, just because they've designed it to use existing 40K stuff, or Warhammer Fantasy, or Age of Sigmar, or whatever it happens to be. And, well, rule systems can't be trademarked in the U.S. because, or they can't be patented. However it works. The all the stuff you attach to it has its own problems.
The text can be copyrighted, but the mathematical stuff basically can't be trademarked unless it is non-algorithmic. So, for case in point. So we talked about this on a podcast that Vince and I do actually not that long ago. If you have let's say a role-playing game, and first level, your first level, and then at second level you hit second level at 1,000 experience points or whatever, but then third level is 3,500, and then the next one is 8,000, and there's not a math, if you were 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, 8,000, that's logarithmic. You can't patent that or trademark it or whatever the deal is. But if you make up your own numbers and go, it's this and then this and then this and then it's this, and then somebody else does that, technically you do have a leg to stand on. Yeah, but if you just go, no one can be like, well, you can't make that game that you used six-siders, and I use six-siders in my game. That's not a thing you can do. Yeah, that's. But if it's an algorithmic progression, or it's a non-algorithmic progression, or logarithmic, or whatever, I don't know math. Then you can't really do that. So.
Well, building on what I was saying there, like,
yeah.
When we're talking about trying to get people to buy into games, where if you have, you've made this point several times, where you've fallen off the 40K wagon just because of the shift to the every 3-year rule upheaval.
Yeah, I mean, there's many reasons, but that's certainly one of them for sure.
Yeah. OPR gives you the opportunity, a game like OPR, we'll say OPR because it's the one that's at hand, gives you the opportunity to use the stuff that you've already got. So if there's somebody out there that's like, I'm kind of tired of the grind on that, then you might be able to talk them into something with that. That can help there.
Oh, for sure.
But
Jefferson
also
told me something interesting at TMX.
Yeah.
So they're currently in version 3.5 point something. I'm not exactly sure what. But in September, they're going to version 3.6, pretty much across the board, all the different ones, Grimdark Future Firefight, Age of Fantasy Skirmish, Age of Fantasy Regiments, yada, yada. And they're currently in playtesting for this new 3.6, and there will be some tweaks and some changes and things like that. And then from what Jefferson told me at TMX, they will then not touch the rules for 3 years.
Wow.
So that's, I think, going to really give a very stable firmament for people to kind of sit on and to kind of learn. And I think that's important because they have also been tweaking things. They don't, once you've bought the advanced rule book, for let's say Grimdark Future Firefight, which is my favorite game of theirs, and you bought it as a PDF, every time they go through and go, well, we changed things a bit, you get an email that says, oh, here's a new download, go download it for free. And so you buy it once and you're good. So if they make changes, that's fine. But they're trying to get to a situation where it becomes something that is far more stable and is not doing the same thing that Games Workshop's doing right now, which is like every quarter, they change. Like I've talked to plenty of people who are like, I only get in a game every quarter. And now I have to go and do a bunch of research and homework before I play to find out if all my points changed and my list is legal and all that kind of stuff. And so I think it's a smart move of them to just like kind of lock it in and let it sit for a while. And I think that's going to be really kind of nice. But to be perfectly honest, any game is miniature agnostic if you believe in yourself.
That's true.
I mean, you may not be able to go and play like in an official event at like Gen Con or Adepticon or whatever. I get it, but you and your friends can use whatever you want to play 40K or BattleTech or, any game really.
I do seem to remember a rather famous image from the first Gulf War of a couple of guys out in the desert. I think they were playing BattleTech with rocks and bottle caps.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
I'm going to age myself with this, but when I first became aware of 40K, was back at a time where the official books was like, if you don't have the minis, don't worry, you can use coffee cans, coins, etc., etc. And GW embraced that because they wanted people to play the game, not to buy the plastic crack. And that was the good times, and that was why I cared about the setting at all. That's how I got into it, and then it just kind of slowly changed, and sad.
Well, they've gotten themselves into a situation where they could make a decent amount of money just selling the plastic, and they could put the rules out for free. Or they could just put the rules out as a thing you buy, and then, I mean, obviously they're not going to put the plastic out for free, but they could really get into the much more miniature agnostic thing. But the way for them to make the most possible money is to do both, is to sell you books on a 3-year cycle, and also constantly have new plastic. And now they're working, you've seen this in, it's basically being tested to some degree in Kill Team. Now they are like, well, we're going to start cycling models. So you have this kill team, that you buy, and you play it for a while, and you can play it in tournaments and things like that. And then eventually it becomes like a set of magic cards, and they're like, well, it's no longer legal to play in tournaments. and maybe it'll come back later, but maybe it won't. You know what I mean? And then they just keep coming out with new stuff, and then they're like, it's like a video game, like, you know, season pass kind of.
Yep. And they
Yeah.
do it with their lore as well, which drives me up the wall. Retconning
But I
your
hate
lore.
that.
Just, I was a Dark Eldar player, so you can imagine how I felt when they were suddenly like, yeah, all those named characters you love, they don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Thanks, GW.
I mean,
thanks.
they've always changed the lore a lot. Like, that's, you know, you see people who are like, these days are like very, very specific about the lore if they want to make, if GW wants to make some sort of change, and they're like, no, you can't change the lore. And you're like, did you look at Rogue Trader? You know what I mean? Like, Space Marines were a lot different back then, and I don't just mean by looks. I mean like just like all these different things. Like, the lore has changed, but doing it within the game and saying these named characters that you have models for are no longer things, that's weird. And that, again, it's just it's churn. And when you're a giant corporation that has shareholders, you unfortunately have to do that. But I personally think that game companies and giant corporations don't go well together. I think that they should be separate. But
I agree. You end up with a lot of very short-sighted ideas coming to fruition when ideally this sort of hobby is something that you want to be a more long-term thing. So yeah.
And that's why, like, with Vince and I, with our games for Snarling Badger Studios, we don't like when we launched the first game, when we launched Rain in Hell, on the first day that it came out, I remember someone in the comments, I think on the video that I did, saying, so when's the first expansion? And we were like, I was like, literally, it just came out today. So I mean, that seems like a little early to ask. And B, we don't have any plans for expansions. Now, we've done tiny little add-ons. Those show up in the zine. So they're like little things that you can go, oh, this adds like, 6 new weapons to, Space Station Zero and some new equipment or something like that. But it's not like, oh, here's, second edition. Oh, now I got to do third edition, that kind of thing. We just, once we make a game, we, go on to the next one, not because the first one's dead or not because we hate it, but because we want to. We look at it from like we're writing novels, and we're not writing like an ecosystem like a Harry Potter or a Star Wars or something like that. We're making a game. You can play it as a campaign for as long as you want, for the most part. Some of them do technically kind of have an end state, and then you can put it away and then maybe come back to it later if you want to or whatever. But we're also selling our books for $22 or less depending on the book. So and we're not really selling miniatures and things like that. We're just trying to sell you a cool rule system to use the stuff that you've already got or stuff that you've wanted to buy but never had a good use for or an excuse for. And I mean, I like to see more of that kind of DIY stuff in the hobby. I'm becoming an old socialist.
You talking about the slow impending change of watching 40K slowly turn into Magic has reminded me of back 20 years ago when I was in college. The game I was into was HeroClix. And that was a game built on that churn after about like the 5th or 6th set. And it was just like, okay, now if the set's more than 3 years old, it's not tournament legal anymore. I played
Star Wars miniatures, the pre-paints from Wizards of the Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And that it wasn't so much the stuff wasn't tournament legal, it just was useless.
Yeah.
Like there would be so much power creep on the new set that you'd go, well, like the second set that came out was the Clone Wars, and for whatever reason I was like, nope, this is my line in the sand. This is my favorite set. So I collect everything in the set, and sure, I picked up other models here and there, but that was my main like force that I built everything off of. And by the time they got to like to the 10th set, my guys couldn't compete in any way, shape, or form. They were completely outgunned. And it was because, you got to keep doing the power creep to get people to, you do it one of two ways. You either do power creep or you basically make the old stuff not legal. I made air quotes there in case anyone was wondering. But, so yeah, it's just kind of the way that you see those big corps kind of work in that situation. So yeah, I'm just wondering when Games Workshop's going to pick up on the thing that Magic is doing with all the other IPs and stuff like that. I'm really looking forward to... a unit of SpongeBob Marines or whatever. I think
Well, that's
And
a
they'll
visual.
no, I know what's going to happen. They'll do the whole Friendship is Magic 40K, and it'll make a crap ton of money, and they'll be like, "Aha, this works!" And then you'll get the SpongeBob Marines, and they'll be very confused why it didn't work as well, and it'll be a whole thing for like a decade. And oh god,
Yeah, yeah.
So
I'm
you're
painting Space
saying
Marines right now, but I'm painting them for OPR. I'm painting a bunch of Primaris for Grim
Prime
Future.
Brothers, yes.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so you're saying we're just gonna get like tabletop Fortnite?
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially. I don't know.
Okay.
GW is very particular about their IP. So that's the one thing I think that would cause that not to happen. That's obviously a bit facetious. But I guess I wouldn't
future's
be
weird.
flabbergasted. Right, exactly. The future is weird. I wouldn't be flabbergasted. But that is the other thing, is that they are very, very specific about their IP. So I don't know that they would want to sully it in some fashion, I guess. I don't know if that's the right
They wouldn't
word.
want to water it down too much. But
Potentially.
I can kind of see the circumstances where they're like, no, we're not going to do like a Star Wars set, because, you know, there's a lot of strings attached to that in a very specific style. But I can absolutely see them saying, we're making a new Imperial Guard regiment that is heavily inspired by Helldivers.
But I mean, it
I
depends
believe
on the
that's
size.
called the Imperial Guard.
Depends on the size of the check. I mean, let's
Yeah.
just be perfectly
Mm.
frank. You know what I mean? Like, if Sony throws like a container ship full of money at them, they're going to do whatever they're going to do.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot money existed for a minute there.
That must be nice.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Yeah. And we got a question in chat here, Adam, asking whether or not you have an opinion on Gundam Assemble.
I've never been an anime guy, and I don't know, frankly, jack about the Gundams. So I know that the prices are weird. I know that like the initial starter is like $35, and then the prices go up non-logarithmically after that. Like it's a very, like, the first one's almost free, and then after that, not so much.
It's like the police told you in the DARE class when you were in 5th grade. Oh yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. The other thing is that beyond the fact that I'm not attached to the IP or interested in it necessarily, it's also a hex-based game, which I'm not into. It's the same. I mean, it's the same issue with BattleTech. I'm not into regular BattleTech. I prefer Alpha Strike, because you play it generally non-hex. So yeah, when I first saw them talking about it, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then last year at Gen Con, they had a good size booth that was very expensive, and they were not selling anything. I'm like, okay, they've got money to throw around, and a lot of it, because they got basically from like not kind of much being at Gen Con to here's a good size booth at Gen Con, which
That's Bandai.
well, it's difficult to do unless you write a really big check. So yeah, I'm sure that they did. But my point is that I was like, so you're not selling it? They're like, no, we're just talking about it and showing. And they had a bunch of the models there, and I shot some video and stuff like that. But they had a bunch of like screens, like, I don't know, big TVs and stuff like that. They were showing off stuff and had like little presentations and all that. And I was like, oh, it's a hex-based game. And the guy's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And then immediately it just left my head. I was just, it's not for me. I'm not saying that hex-based games are bad. They're not for me. Like last time I played a hex-based game was Warhammer Underworlds, like Shadespire, like the first set. And I was like, yeah, this is fine. But it was, at the time I was looking at it from the aspect of it was just a kind of a decent gateway game between board games and miniature games. Like, it was an interesting time at the local shop, at the local game store, because basically the Magic players, half of them were playing Magic and also Star Wars X-Wing, because they didn't have to build or paint, and there were still some cards there to kind of collect and that kind of stuff. And then the other half of them were playing Magic and Shadespire, but they weren't painting them, obviously, but they were in colored plastic, so it was good enough, or whatever. So so that was kind of an interesting thing to see between the two. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I don't know what the long-term translation is with Gundam Assemble. Like, I've been surprised before. I've had people come up to me at Adepticon and say, I got it. I got into 40K because I played Dawn of War on the PC.
Yeah.
And the idea in my mind to go from I want to play this PC game to then take it to the conclusion where I've painted an army and I'm playing in the championship tournament at Adepticon is like, you know what I mean? Like playing the video game, buying some guys, putting them together, going, well, that was hard. I don't want to paint them. And then that's it. Like that happens all the time. That happens all day, every day. But the idea that people go from video game to being so involved that they're playing at Adepticon astounds me. It's just, I'm also astounded by it does happen, which is crazy, which is awesome. You know, we may get some of that from Gundam. We may get people who are into Gundam. They try the game out because it's Gundam related. And then eventually they get into other types of games and things like that. I just don't know if it'll happen too frequently, but you know, on the other hand, those people might just get together and play this game and have a great time with it. And I hope that that's the case. And I hope that the pricing is not too predatory or whatever, that kind of stuff. And I hope that they have a good time with the models. Like I said, Gundam, like the thing about the Gundam stuff is that I think it's all gray plastic. So you're going to be painting it probably anyway. Whereas like the normal Gundam stuff is like in colored plastic and then you don't have to paint it from what I understand. I own 2 Gundams, which I have not built. They're called 30-minute missions, but I've been told by multiple people they take longer than 30 minutes. So that's a bummer. That's not what it says on the box. I should. That seems like a false advertising. But I bought a couple of Gundams for Chrome Rangers, basically.
On the note of getting back to the independent games and serving as a different way to appreciate the stuff that you have. You've talked about the differences that you see between BattleTech and Alpha Strike, and like the hex-based system, I feel like is the absolute smallest difference between the two of those things. And you've been into these hobbies long enough that you've been able to see these trends where when you talk about especially classic BattleTech, you're talking about a very 1980s kind of game that was very focused on simulation.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, is it still 2 sides of an 8.5 by 11 per mech?
I don't.
Just one side.
I think it's one side.
Sure.
Hang on, I know someone I can ask. One moment.
So, you know, basically, even if it's one side of an 8.5 by 11, you're comparing that to Alpha Strike, which is on a card the size of a magic card or whatever, right? And
Aiden says one side.
Okay. So the benefit is that for me is that I'm looking for something a little bit more streamlined, and streamlined is sometimes a bad word to some folks in gaming, and for other folks it is, I think, the requirement. For me, Vince and I have been talking about this lately. I came up with it in a video that I was doing recently, and then he and I started talking about it on the podcast, and we've decided to call it the sandwich cookie. And what it is, because we didn't want to call it the Oreo cookie because we thought, I don't know, they might sue us. I don't know. But so the sandwich cookie idea is that your game, the ideal game, in my opinion, is like a sandwich cookie where you have crunch and then you have like the creamy middle and then you have more crunch. So what that means is when you are building your force, your warband, your crew, your, whatever, your cabal, that part is kind of crunchy because you're like, okay, well, I'm going to give this guy a grenade and this guy's going to get a knife and I got 6 points left and I can put it into this guy's hat or whatever, that kind of thing. And you kind of get to do that stuff, but you have a tendency to do it once, generally. Like when you're first building the warband, you sit down and you do some of that stuff and you're by yourself and you're just kind of like working on this and you're doing your list crafting, your theory crafting, however you want to take it. And that's the crunchy part. But when you play the game, it should be, especially if you're playing in a situation where you're trying to play in a campaign, you don't want each step to the campaign to take 3 hours.
Yes,
because you'll be very difficult to get through 20, missions if it's going to take that long. So in that situation, like the games that we design, the gameplay part is simpler. But that's because it's the part, you got the crunch of that first cookie, you setting up your warband and figuring out how you're going to do it. Then you have the gameplay loop, which is streamlined and easy and still gives you the ability for emerging narrative and all kinds of things like that. But it's not like, geez, I got to look and I got 68 different cards I got to pay attention to, and tactics and stratagems and all that stuff. And then when you get done with the game, then you've got some crunch again because you have your post-game process. Okay, well, this guy was taken out of action. Well, now he's got a bum leg. Okay, I have to keep track of that. This guy found a cool sword. So now he's going to keep that. And these guys, and you do that kind of like more book work almost a little bit, but not too crazy. You don't necessarily want to get a Excel document in there if you don't have to. And so that type of like easy crunch is what I'm interested in most, and what we've been kind of designing a little bit, to be perfectly frank, kind of without like really realizing we were doing it, but now we've got like words to describe it. And to me, a game that's very simulationist is the opposite.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's crunch. It's like eating a bowl of granola.
Or if you look at something like Kill Team, like the setting up your team is easy because there's no choices. You have this box and you got maybe, well, you can either have this guy's either got a grenade launcher or he's got a flamethrower, and that's maybe your all the choice you might have. So in that situation, and there's other games too where you're like, well, this is the crew. This is like, you bought this box, you build them this way, that's it. There's no list building. And now we're going to play the game, and it's going to take a month of Sundays to get it actually done. And we have to hit and there's 16 books and that kind of stuff. And some people love that. And again, I don't want to yuck
this week we're sitting down
yum.
to play the campaign for North Africa.
Right, exactly. I don't want to yuck anyone's yum, but for me personally, and I think also from many people that I've talked to who are just getting into the hobby, the really super crunchy gameplay can throw people off initially. If it comes into a situation where all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I love, I just wish that my game took longer. Well, then there's plenty of options. But I have sat through games that have been incredibly simulationist, not for a long time, but back in the day. And even back then I was like, this whole thing could have been a video game. Would have been a lot faster if the computer did all the math. I was playing Silent Death, which was an old space combat game made by Iron Crown Enterprises in like the 80s and 90s. And we used to do demos of it at Gen Con, me and my friend Peter. We worked with the folks from Iron Crown Enterprises, and we would go and run demos and things like that. And there would be times when you just like, you've got a lot of people playing because you're at a convention, and it's been like, 45 minutes since your last turn, and you're just sitting there and you're just like, yeah, if this was a video game, we would all be doing this simultaneously. I wouldn't be so bored. Like, just a lot of things like that. And those are the type of things at least as designers, me and Vince try to like.
And I think that makes perfect sense, because especially with the way that a lot of prices have been in wargaming lately, it's pushing a lot older on the spectrum of games, because it's kind of hard for a 16-year-old to put together a 40K army.
Absolutely.
So, I'm imagining that a lot of that demographic now is pushing into the 30s. Mm-hmm. But
when you go to Adepticon, you see mostly like the people playing, especially like in the 40K championships, you're looking at mid-20s is the youngest, and it's usually 30s and 40s.
So
there is a related question in chat. Lovely wife Carr says, does Adam have any recommendations for kid-friendly entry-level games?
I am not actually an uncle, nor am I a father, so I don't know anything about children. Like, I can recognize one from a distance.
But you wouldn't eat a whole one for lunch?
No, not at all.
Oh, you got to take some home, put it in the fridge for later.
I don't really know. The only one that I can really think of that I think is a brilliant idea, and it would be, I think especially young kids would be super into it, is one called Necro Molds. And so,
why do I feel like I've heard of this? Where it's like a miniatures game based off of Play-Doh.
Yep, exactly. Okay. It's like Play-Doh. So you have little molds, and then you put the Play-Doh in there, and you squeeze the mold shut, kind of like a little book, and they're like little spell books. And then you pull out your little monsters, and then when you're playing, they're your miniatures, and then when you finally kill one of your opponent's miniatures, you have this big plastic ring on your hand, like like a big signet type ring, and then you get to squish the model with your big signet ring.
Okay.
This sounds like an ideal game for adults who also have alcohol.
I was
That's
going to
fine.
say, this sounds like a great game to play over 6 drinks.
Sure, but Necromolds is the only game that I know of that's a war game that is kid friendly. I mean, it's like aimed towards children, but it is very cool. But yeah, Necromolds is what it's called.
As a former child, I am now shopping for this product or service.
There you go. There you go.
Squick, if we find this product or service, the next time you come over, we can play that and Gaslands.
Oh, excellent.
Oh no, we're gonna have Play-Doh cars.
You know, I do know a guy that made Play-Doh molds for Urban Mechs.
Concerning.
Not concerning it slightest, and they worked. That was the thing that got me about it, is they did work. Mini Hulk, I don't know if you're still in chat. Was that you? Because that might have been you. It might have been Volk. I don't remember. But in either case, I was going to ask a question based off of the crunch versus fluff kind of conversation we were just having of complications. Mm-hmm. And your position to know this better than probably anyone I know, because I think you're probably exposed to a lot more games than most people. The thing that always frustrates me about BattleTech is, like you said, the base game is effectively a simulation game where Catalyst has recently introduced that they have an app for certain things, which, yeah, I can see how that would speed stuff up. If you can put in, I'm using Shadow Mech 2D, and somebody just hit me with an LRM5, and now we get to see where they hit, or something like that. I can see how that might speed stuff up a little bit. I can also see how it might not. But then you get over to Alpha Strike, and it is very abstracted. Mm-hmm. I would love to see something in the middle, and I understand I am courting some very dangerous Mech Warrior Dark Age clicky tech kind of stuff by saying that.
I played that actually.
Yeah,
I did back in the day. Yeah, we play. We've modified my friend Eric that I play Alpha Strike with. We've modified. How do we do it? Do we do like? We use 12-siders. I don't know. There's a lot of different like ways to make the game less just roll a 6-sider and then or whatever. There's like a little bit more to it than that. Mm-hmm. And I forget now off because it's been a minute. Basically, we haven't played since before Adepticon, because from Adepticon, well, honestly, the first half of the year is just me dancing as fast as I can, and I've gotten used to it. But it's basically like getting things ready for the launch of the game, and then it's Adepticon, and then it's layout mode, and then it is launch, and then it is TMX, and then there's usually something else in there, and then we get to where I am now. So I'm thankfully now, things are like the rest of the year is a little bit smoother for the most part. I don't still got some travel here and there, but not too much. But that being said, I do like making it a little crunchier, but I don't want to like add too much to it. But I think as a game, it is maybe almost a little bit too abstract. I won't disagree, which is why I also really like Flames of Orion and Steel Rift, is because they're still big stompy robots, but they're not as abstract, but also not simulationist.
That is that's basically the answer to the question I was going to ask. Was something that would fill that gap, but Flames of Orion I'm going to have to look into. I do have another question based off
I'm going to break in first.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the follow, WASD Warrior. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Proceed!
Yeah. Based off of a video that you made a little bit back, I need you to defend one statement. And it's not really defend the statement. I just want to hear you say it to this particular chat. So Rowdy Roddy Piper's Disney princess.
Yes.
Yeah. What?
So Vince and I have joked because there's a lot of game companies out there that do a lot of licensed product. So they do a lot of like, oh, we're making a game based off of this movie, or and you see it with Disney stuff. You see it, MCU. You see it Star Wars. You see Halo. You see all these different things turned into tabletop war games, and that's fine if you're into that kind of thing. We did a whole episode of the podcast. Our podcast is about like indie games and their design. So if you're interested in indie
That's
games,
the Snarlcast, by the way.
yeah, it's called the Snarlcast. You can find it on the snarlingbadger.com website as well, or just wherever you get your podcasts. But we talked about licensing versus non-licensing, and the pros and cons and all that kind of stuff. And we joked about how we thought if we were ever going to license something to make a skirmish game off of, it would be the Rowdy Roddy Piper movie, Hell Comes to Frogtown, which I think was made
Oh
in
my
very,
God,
very
that
high
movie.
budget film.
Yeah,
Very
either
high
88
budget film.
I have PTSD about that film because we have a friend who is very into bad movies, and oh God.
Oh yeah. So it was either like 88 or 89 or 90, somewhere in there roughly is when the movie was made. And so Vince and I both just thought that would be sort of funny. And I mentioned it on my Twitch stream, and somebody in the chat did a little bit of research, because the problem was we were like, we wouldn't even know who to ask, to get the license. They're like, how much does it cost? I don't know, probably, hopefully not a lot, but also who would you talk to? And someone in the chat went through and was like, well, it looks like this company that was the company that produced it, they've been bought by this company, and then that company got bought by this company, and then that company got bought by that company, and then that company got bought by Disney, as all things go. So so I was like, oh, okay, so that's official then. Roddy Roddy Piper is a Disney princess, because technically that movie's owned by Disney. So I think, well, I mean, technically it's Sam Hell that is a Disney princess, but Sam Hell's played by Roddy Roddy Piper.
I mean, he's
so.
basically
No, the math
Roddy
checks out.
Piper.
Yeah. No, it does.
So there you go. Sunday night, I need all of you to hit my brother with that whenever he does the wrestling stream, okay? Please and thank you, Chad.
I have concerns.
Not my problem.
I'm in charge of polls on Sunday.
Excellent.
Oh, no.
If he's got it up and running by then, that's going to be fantastic.
That's true.
That can only end well.
That's what I'm here for, is my brother suffering. So what else did we have on the list, Squig?
Oh, let me
We're
pull
10
the
minutes
list
to
back up
midnight.
here. The Army Painter Factory team
Okay,
favorite.
yes.
Yeah.
Adam, we were talking about that a little bit earlier, as you have described yourself as having effectively 3 day jobs now of
Yes.
YouTube production, working with Vince for the annual release of the games and the zines, and then the Army Painter Factory team.
Yep.
What all goes into that, being a member of that team? Because, like, from the videos I've seen, it felt initially very much like it's a promotional thing where it's like, we want you to show this stuff off and give us feedback based off of what you think the audience might like. But I had not considered that would be an ongoing, like, in-depth kind of thing. Like, what's that like?
So it's basically like to some degree, being a brand ambassador.
Okay.
So, we go to shows like Adepticon's one. Nova used to be one, but we're not going to Nova. And I'm planning on going to PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia in December. I'll be at Gen Con, but I'm going to be there just on my own, recognizance as per usual. But I have helped out in the past when they've needed it there at Gen Con. So in those situations, more often than not, what happens is, like at Adepticon specifically, I basically stand around and I can answer questions, but people come in and they see me and they know me from YouTube and they're like, oh, hey. And so I'm kind of like, but if sometimes it's me, sometimes it's Sam, sometimes, because Sam's also on the factory team. The Glacial Geek, which is a YouTuber out of Atlanta, which, I mean, when he started the channel, he was in Alaska, so the glacial part made sense, but now he's in Atlanta where it is not glacial at all. But, you got to stick with the name. So, and he used to be basically a channel that just did battle reports, and he's moved away from that. And he has also elevated his painting quite a bit, and he goes to a lot of tournaments now. and he is like, winning like best painted or like second best painted or whatever. He's like gaining ITC points, and there's like a hobby track, and I think he's currently #1 in the world in the hobby track, but it's partially just because he's been going to so many events. Like he's going to be going to another one this weekend. But there's a bunch of different people in the factory team. People from we got Heresy for Heretics out of Australia. We've got a Canadian now. Her name is Courtney, Figuratively Speaking Miniatures. We've got a couple of one podcast. We've got a member in the Philippines. We've got some folks in England. Peachy, who used to be with GW, he's part of the factory team. Rob Metters from Metters Miniatures, and it's partially promotional and going to shows and things like that, but it's also partially like product testing to some degree. Like right now, we're doing some product testing on some stuff that I have to remember to send back tomorrow. What the heck day is today? Thursday? Yeah, I should really send it back tomorrow. And so, it's a situation where, we basically, and it's not like we get paid, to do it, but it's not like
it's not extravagant.
No. None of the jobs that I do is enough for me to live on, but with 3 of them, it's fine. It's okay. I had a day job, like a regular old day job. I was a web designer and a graphic designer and all that kind of stuff. Up until I started the channel in 2013, I was doing my full-time day job up until 2022, at which point I moved to just doing freelance for them. And then I finally quit freelance in spring of 2024. And the whole reason I quit, lovely folks, and I'm still friends with them, but the reason I quit was because my concern was I was going to get like, they were going to come and say, hey, this client needs this, and I was going to be in the middle of like layout for the game or something like that. And it had gotten to that point where I'm like, I can't have that kind of like time sink on top of all the other time sinks. And so I didn't start this to make it into a job. It sort of eventually, kicking and screaming, worked its way kind of into one. But again, like, with YouTube, I've got the YouTube, like money comes in from YouTube from the advertising stuff. I don't do a lot of sponsored things. I'm not trying to sell Casper mattresses or, those weird shavers for your privates or whatever. And then we got
Shamdo Legends.
And then, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Every time that they email, I always come back to them and I say, well, I'll do an ad spot for them for $15,000. So if you do ever see me do an ad spot for Raid Shadow Legends, they finally relented and paid me $15,000. And you shouldn't watch it.
We just made a joke version of a Raid advert, and we occasionally play it just for fun.
Yeah.
Nice.
On the other hand, if you can wrangle 15 grand out of them, hell yeah.
They're always like, well,
Yes.
No. And I'm like, well, that's my price. The problem is, and coming from web design and graphic design, the problem is that when you do that, every once in a while they say yes.
Uh-oh.
And then you're like, oh crap, you know what I mean? Like it's more often than not like you've got a client who's like, oh, we need you to do this, and it's got to be done by this date, and you're like, I don't want to say no, but I also don't have the time or the inclination to do it, so I'll just give them an exorbitant price.
Yeah, here's the go away price.
Right, and then they're like, okay, and you're like, oh crap.
This is the Max Fleischer Superman effect. Back in the 30s and 40s, Fleischer Studios did not want to make those cartoons, and so they did something exactly like that. And then DC was just like, cool.
Yeah. They're like, oh crap, yeah, we should have said more, yeah. But so, like I said, I did that, and then it was in 20. But I started on the factory team in 2023, I believe. I had been a fan of their paints for a long time. Not so much the regular paints, like the regular opaque paints that they used to make.
It was a good line of paints.
Yeah, it was a good line of colors. But the material was a little. Does the word ketchup water mean anything to you?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Visceral.
Yes. And so when you would put it onto your wet palette, it would just have this little ring of like fluid around it. No matter how hard you shook it, you could shake the heck out of it, and it would still do that. But it was a good line of colors, 126 different colors or something like that at the time. And so then they came out with the airbrush paints, and those were astounding. So I'm like 2019 maybe. And so I was like, well, and I stopped using, I had been using Vallejo airbrush paints and things like that. And so I was just using their airbrush paints because they were so good. And then they came out with the speed paints, and I love the speed paints. And that was like in 2020 or 2021, I think. And then in like the summer of 2023, they sent me a little, and I was just like, I knew them, and I would talk to them at shows and things like that. And every once in a while, they'd send me like a free thing, like, here, check this out. But they sent me this little brown box that had like 5 bottles of paint in them, and they were all hand labeled with like paper labels. And they were like, hey, this is like some prototype stuff, so keep it under your hat, but try it out, see what you think. And I kind of sat on it for a couple of weeks and wasn't doing anything with it. And then one day I was like waiting for something to dry, sitting at my painting table, and I grabbed this Space Marine that was primed black that was just sitting on my table. And I grabbed one of the bottles out of that box, and I think it was a turquoise. And I shook it real hard, and I squirted on a little bit of it onto my wet palette, and there was no ketchup water, and it was really creamy. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then I painted like his leg, and it was one coat, and it was creamy, and it was smooth, and there was no there was no streaking, and I didn't see black through it, and it covered really well. And I was like, all right, I see what you, okay, all right. And then later on, they sent me like the big pack, again, all hand labeled bottles, but it was like 162 different colors or whatever. And in these 6 color families and all that kind of stuff. And if they hadn't have sent me that stuff, if they would have said, hey, you love the airbrush paints and you love the speed paints, would you be interested in joining this factory team? I would have said no, because I can't in good conscience tell people, hey, use the opaque paints as well. But when they did this Fanatic thing, which is what they're called now, the Fanatic paints came out in like spring of 2024. As soon as they sent them to me, I started messing with them. I'm like, oh, these are the best paints I've ever used. So then it was no problem when they came up with it, like in late 2023. They're like, hey, we're thinking about doing this factory team thing. And I was like, yeah, I'm in. So that's kind of where that all came from. But it keeps me off the streets. That's really the most important thing.
Well, I still remember whenever they did the reveal promo for the Fanatic paints, and it was the perfect thing to do for anybody that was already familiar with the reputation of the war paints and generally knew what painting with a particular color was like, because it was like, here's a black base and here's yellow and one coat yellow over black base opacity. And I remember looking at that and saying, that is fucking witchcraft.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I was traveling more that year than I think I've ever traveled, 2024, because I went with them to the GAMA trade show, the Game Manufacturers Association trade show in Louisville. And my job was to basically sit in the booth at a table with paints, and because when you go to that trade show, being not a gaming convention, the people who are walking around aren't they are gamers, but that's not what they're store owners and store like employees. So they're walking up and they're like, okay, I've been hearing about this, I want to try it out. So it's my job just to be like, all right, well, and I'd show them how to do it. And it was just you could tell when somebody knew, because they would say, because you'd have this huge box of 216 or 206, whatever it is, bottles of paint, the big, huge complete set. And I'd be like, well, what color are you looking for? And they're like, orange. I'm like, all right. And then they would try to paint something. And they'd be like, oh, and then, because they knew that orange, yellow, those colors can be problematic. And so they're just trying to find out, well, how can I break this? Or is it really as good as that? And I just, they sold a lot of racks, to stores. You're like, all right, yep, I need that rack in my store, and that's the thing. I still like, Sam. I was talking about Sam earlier. Sam is still winning awards, and he's painting, the stuff that he's winning, Golden Demons and Verkos Vault stuff like that. He's painting it all with Army Painter stuff, because again, he's on the factory team as well, and that's just. He loves the colors and the coverage and the blending abilities and all that kind of fun stuff. And that's really cool. So, I love the idea that a paint company that I'd be like, I don't think you could paint a Golden Demon winning product with the old war paints. And like 5 years ago, I would have been like, that seems like you're like really working uphill. And then for the ability for a company to be able to to turn it around like that, it's awesome to see. And there's so many other paints out there that have just like just the technology in painting over the last 10 years has been astounding. And I'm always so happy that new people getting into it, that I can be like, hey, have you heard about, like contrast paints or speed paints? Have you heard about washes? Have you heard about like, all these different things, like bespoke dry brushes that actually are worth the money that you're going to spend sometimes, and like all those different types of things. I'll still tell people to use a makeup brush from the dollar store too, but there's different reasons you want to use a really super soft brush versus a maybe more bristly brush sometimes, and stuff like that. But between that and 3D printing, and more companies just even being able to afford to do plastics, I would say it's the best time possibly ever to be a wargamer, as far as the miniature and the rules too. There's so many games to play too.
I really feel like the matchup of the like you said, the improvement in the quality of models, 3D printing, and paint, like that's all been fantastic. And I agree with you on that, because I remember I was on both ends of this. I've been trying to like steadily improve as a painter since roughly 2019. And COVID really gave that such a tremendous boost, which is just a weird thing to say out loud, but it's like, you're stuck at home with a lot of time on your hands. What you going to do? Well, I guess I'm going to paint this big pile of gray plastic.
Yeah. Hobby companies did so well during the pandemic, and the smart ones realized that was not a gravy train that they could ride from now on. You know what I mean? They're like, this is great, but we have to understand that we are going to invest it the way we're going to invest it, and hold on to it or whatever. And most of them have been good. I think there were some stores, I personally know of some stores that were like, oh, this is the new normal, and then found out that wasn't the case. So, but there's plenty of good stores out there too that really had amazing growth, and then smartly turned it into, hopefully whatever they're doing today. And that's a thing. Like it sounds terrible to say that something good came out of all of that.
Yeah.
But there was some stuff, you know what I mean? There were other things that did not obviously go well, which is a bit of an understatement. But like I was at the time working with a company, the company that I was doing my web design and stuff like that with, we also had designed an app called Game 4.
I remember this.
Yeah, it was for connecting tabletop gamers. And it was starting to kind of take off. We launched it in 2018. And in 2020, we had about 40,000 registered users. And we'd gone to the game, manufacturers trade show thing again. This is back when it was still in Reno, Nevada, instead of being in Louisville. And we came back from that show with so many business cards and so many let's meet next week and all that kind of stuff and everything like online. And while we were at that show, that's when they shut down the NHL and they shut down the NBA, and like Adepticon got canceled and all that stuff. And we're like, all right, well, we'll have to stay home for a couple of weeks. And then
it turned into roughly 2 years.
Right. And the cut line for our app, our slogan was connecting tabletop gamers. And now there was 2 years where you were not supposed to connect with tabletop gamers in person. And so, that pretty much shut her down. And I would love to bring something like that back, but good Lord. I mean, it was expensive to get it to where we got it. And I don't think that the company that I worked with on that, again, those folks that I had worked with for quite some time, and I was doing web design for them and everything like that, and also working on the app, it was, they didn't want to spend the money again, and I understand it.
Yeah. Well, we are getting toward the, actually, we are at the end of the time slot here. There's nobody after us, but,
sure.
And I'm burning vacation time over the summer to get rid of it so I don't lose it. So I can go later if everybody's okay with that, but I don't have to. I was going to ask, considering the situation with the factory team and such, and I agree with you, the Fanatics paints are so much better than the original war paints were. I feel like a lot of the paint companies kind of got there where, Vallejo Model and Game Color before their revamp was pretty good. I think it's really good now. I think Pro Acryl kind of set the bar for what you measure stuff against right at the beginning of that transition. Can you contractually give me your personal preference on these?
I used to use Monument before the Fnatic stuff came out. And for me, like, Monument had great paints. I realized I was using them wrong. That was problem number one. From what I've been told multiple times by multiple people, Pro Acryl paints aren't designed for a wet palette, because Jason, who's the owner, the president or whatever, lovely guy and a very, very, very good painter.
I'm learning.
He doesn't use a wet palette. So the reason that the Pro Acryls, I would put them on my wet palette and they would kind of like eventually get real wet and split and everything like that, is because he doesn't use wet palettes, so they're not designed for a wet palette. So, so that's one thing. And they were like I said, I like the colors. I like the paints a lot. The thing that I find that I can't get away from now, though, is the system for, because I hate to mix paints. I'm not a paint mixer. So it happens once every quarter that I actually have to mix paints, but it's pretty rare. But the thing that's interesting is that with the Army Painter stuff, they have those 6 color families, and you can look on the bottle and go, okay, well, this is part of the neutral grays or whatever, and this is the 3rd darkest. So there are 3 that are lighter and 2 that are darker, and then you can go find those, and then you know, like, well, this is the color I should use to highlight, edge highlight this. But with pretty much every other brand out there, it's like, well, this is a blue and this is a light blue, but they're not exactly the same hue. They're maybe not, you know what I mean? And that's, and so for me, that's the most important thing right now.
You know,
for my own personal stuff, is I really love the paint system, as also, and the material itself is excellent. Like I said, it's very creamy, it's very pigment rich. I love that. And it's also the way I like to paint more. Like, I'm a huge fan of transparent paints, so I use speed paints for like I do a lot of my work, like these Space Marines I'm working on right now. A lot of the initial work was basically just like airbrush prime black, and then I sprayed, what the heck color was it? It's a brown. I want to say marigold brown, but that's not the right word. Magnolia brown. So I sprayed magnolia brown up underneath to basically give it like a shadow underneath. And then I sprayed like skeleton bone, like zenithal down. And now all of my armor has got like this tan to like kind of dark brown in the shadows. And then it's bringing it over to the hobby desk. And then it is basically coloring things in grim black, blood moon red. All these are you know, speed paints. I'm using ruddy brown on all the pouches and all that stuff that they wear on their belts to keep your lunch in or whatever. And you do all that kind of stuff. And then I make up my own stuff. It's called marine juice.
Yes, I've seen you talk about marine juice. It's a
there's a YouTuber named Sonic Sledgehammer, who's great work. You should follow Sonic Sledgehammer on YouTube. And he got the recipe kind of from guys that he knew who used to work at Forge World. And it is literally just a couple of washes and some medium, and you pre-mix a bunch of it, and then it's just like a unifying wash that you slop over everything, and it just sort of ties everything together really nicely. And so I do a lot of that. I'm not into brush layering or brush blending too much. I rarely do edge highlighting. Like, the first thing that happened once I brought those models that are all colored, you know, that zenithal of skeleton bone, the first thing I did when I got them to the table is I dry brushed them all with like ancient stone, which is a slightly lighter color. And then, you know, that helps to bring out some detail on the panel lines and things like that.
Right.
And so, yeah, I don't do a lot of like blending and things. So being able to find the other thing that's the benefit to being able to not have to blend colors is that then I don't have to come back 3 years later and try to figure out how I did it again.
Yeah,
I just go look at my phone and I go, oh, I use this color and this color and this color, and that's what I did. So,
and as I remember, the marine juice is, I could be entirely wrong about this.
The standard is generally like a flesh tone, a brown. So one part flesh tone, 1 part brown, and 1 part medium.
Okay.
But it's all about which ones you prefer and how you want to mix them. I've come up with a new one recently that I've been using on my Trench Crusade models because they're naval raiders. They're kind of like there's guys that live under the sea and then come up with the water and then stab people and
Sure.
shoot them and just are generally evil or whatever.
Like you do.
And in that one, what I'm doing is it's one part. It's one of the John Blanche washes, like Green Grove Hollow or something like that.
Mhm.
So it's basically a drop of green and then a drop of the Grimdark Shadow wash, which is like a sort of a Payne's Gray kind of wash.
Yeah.
And then it's a drop of speed paint medium, and then it's a drop of the Fanatic stabilizer, which is basically another medium. So
Right.
it's a little bit thinner than normal because it's got 2 drops of different types of mediums and then just 2 drops of pigment. But I mix up. I don't have a whole like for my normal marine juice. I have like an 80 milliliter bottle that I've mixed together out of just like 3 different bottles. But when I do the stuff for the Trench Crusade, I just mix it as much as I need. But I do a lot of unifying washes because I just like the way it ties things together.
I am curious, considering the color profile that you're talking about there. Pro Acryl has something in their amp color line that it's a petroleum brown wash that sounds like it has a similar. Now, it's not going to have the same consistency, but it does sound like it has a similar color to it. I've got it on camera right now, if that helps. But I don't know if that would accomplish the same thing. I do know that it does not have the. Because at one point I did make your marine juice. I've got it sitting around somewhere. I think this is in the same kind of family. It doesn't have as low a surface tension, which you could get around that. You could do stuff to make that happen. But
Sure, it seems just from seeing it on camera, it does seem a little bit thicker.
Yes, well, it's a Pro
than
Acryl
normal
wash.
washes.
So
Yeah. I remember the original like brown Pro Acryl wash. I felt like it was slightly purple.
here,
Like,
you
even the
know, you're
label
not
was slightly
wrong.
purple.
Here
yeah,
it is.
And I thought that was interesting.
Do I have? I've got another bottle cap right here. What does that say on the bottom of it? Yingling.
Well, it wasn't technically wash, was it?
Yeah, it's
Wasn't it
a brown wash.
Or no, there was a brown wash, but they
Yeah.
also had transparent paints too.
Yes, which I have
And
those
I
also.
never quite understood what. Well, I used the white transparent. It was a spectacular glaze. I used that all the time back in the day. But now I just if in the rare instances where I'm glazing, I just mix up. I use the Fanatics what do they call it, the stabilizer, which
Right.
is basically their medium, and I use that with whatever color I'm going to be glazing with, usually white if I'm going down that road. But it's pretty rare that I do that.
I think the Pro Acryl transparent line had the tremendously bad luck of coming out not long before contrast paints did. And I think
Contrast came out in 2019. I think the transparent. I feel like Pro Acryl came out. Well, Pro Acryl in general came out before that, but they weren't really well known until I think after that.
I just remember very early on after the contrast stuff came out, Ninjon made a video about home brewing something using the transparent lines from Pro Acryl.
Yeah.
So I think it had bad luck as far as that goes.
I mean, all of the stuff, for the most part, all the stuff that we've got in all these bottles are things we could make ourselves to some degree using just regular paints and the right stuff.
Mediums and yeah.
Yeah. But it's, for the most part, it's sometimes just easier. Again, if you're doing like army painting stuff, like I don't usually even do big armies, but when 9th edition came out, is that the one that had the Necrons in the box? Was that Indominus?
I think so.
Yes, it was, because 10th was Leviathan.
Yeah.
So 9th was Indominus, and so I painted up a bunch of Necrons, and then when 10th edition came out, I realized that most of the stuff that I had painted was most of the combat patrol for Necrons. I had like one unit of guys I had to paint, and then like the tall Doomstalker thing. So I just went back into my phone and looked up what I had used, and there was no mention of like, well, sort of 2 parts of this and kind of 1 part of that, or none of that stuff. It was just like, this is this and this and this and this. And so for me, having specific colors and not having to remix things and hope that I get it right is, I don't know, kind of my thing.
And that makes perfect sense. My 2 co-hosts have been very quiet for a little bit. You guys okay?
Yeah, you haven't needed us.
Pretty much. Like I can just be over. I can make some air horn noises if you'd like.
Oh, I am not one to interrupt a conversation that is flowing intellectually and interestingly and well outside my scope of knowledge. It's been lovely listening to you.
Wait. I've got to think. Here, I can contribute to this conversation.
Oh, God.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, so when you're mixing your paint, do you like go shuka shuka shuka, or do you have a jiggling machine, or like is there a swazzler, or what's your technique?
I have a vortex mixer that I use in the airbrush room, and it's like a little electric thing. And
Yeah, I have one of those tape mixers as well.
Yeah,
Well, I say
colloquially
I do.
known
My
on-
husband does.
Known on this stream as the meat jiggler. Thank you,
Yeah.
Squick.
Yeah, I have one of those, but it's only in the airbrush room because it's on the floor. Because I don't have one on my hobby desk where I normally do my normal brush painting, because my hobby desk is a little flimsy, if I'm perfectly honest. And I'm concerned that it's going to shake everything off of it. So
Yeah,
that's fair.
I do want eventually to be so fancy that I have 2 vortex mixers, one in the airbrush room. So I have this airbrush room. It sounds very fancy, but it is basically a little Harry Potter room underneath the basement stairs.
This is perfect.
It used to be a coal bin. The house my wife and I own is like it was built in 1920. So you used to heat the house by these guys would roll up into our driveway way before I was born, and there was a little door down on the kind of foundation of the house, and they would open that up and just shovel a bunch of coal into that room, and then the people who lived here had to shovel it into the furnace, and that's what it was. So then years later we had a normal regular gas furnace and all that kind of stuff. And my wife's grandfather, because we bought the house from her parents, he used that room, that old coal bin. He used it as that's where he would write. So he had a typewriter in there and a tape recorder and books and all kinds of stuff like that. So then when we bought the house, it's this weird little under the stairs room, and I'm like, that's where my airbrush is going to go. And so
That's perfect.
Yeah, it is. It works out pretty nice. It's frankly slightly not necessary. Like early days, I was like, well, I got to have it in a separate room because airbrush is very messy, and it turns out that you could airbrush in your car. I mean, it's really not the end of the world. It's
Again,
there's a lot
like you
of folks
said,
out
as long
there.
as you're not being Vince and using lacquer to do it. Yeah.
Right. If and when I'm airbrushing, I'm still wearing a mask just because I don't want particulates going into my lungs. But it's not fumes. It's not the only fumes that are coming out of your air compressor is compressing air that's in your room. So
Right.
Whereas like rattle can, the propellant, that's a whole different type of stink that you don't want in your house usually, and so that's why I rattle can things outside. But yeah. So anyway, I'm more of I would love to have a vortex mixer in both places, but for right now, I only have it for the airbrush room.
Okay, I want to ask one more question, and then I think we need to start winding down. And I was hoping you could explain to this audience this really just this word right here that I have on camera right now, so that they can appreciate the curse word of the future.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So when I do terrain, I'm a big sci-fi fan, so I do a lot of sci-fi stuff, and I just wanted to come up with like a piece of like a swear word in a sci-fi swear word that's not really a swear word. So kind of like in Battlestar Galactica, they said frack a lot. You know what I mean? And then they could say it on TV all the time, this fracking thing and that fracking thing, and it didn't, it wouldn't get bleeped or whatever. And so I was just trying to come up with a word, and for whatever reason, the word flarg came out. And so I've used flarg on a couple different pieces of terrain that I've done. And then getting ready for Adepticon this year, I'm like, well, I should make flarg stickers. And I don't know how to do graffiti. So that sticker that you showed on your water bottle there, making that piece of artwork in Illustrator, because I am a graphic designer, but I'm not a graffiti guy. That took me like, I don't know, probably 6 to 8 hours of dicking around. I mean, like, going online and like, because you're trying to figure out, well, what should the R look like? What should the G look like? And just all these little things, like if I was just making a sticker, it would have been like a normal font or whatever, or I could have slid around with some kerning and but that was all just basically kind of like hand drawn in Illustrator. And then, you got to have those weird little, they're almost like quotation marks on the side, but not quite, and all that kind of stuff. And so I looked at a lot of different, tutorials and examples and came up with that. And So yeah,
And it was time well spent, and you've never regretted it.
No, it was fine. I mean, every once in a while you go down weird rabbit holes, and sometimes they turn into stickers, and that's fine too.
Red, Squick, do you either of you have anything that you want to hit on?
No, I'm just very happy to be in the presence of somebody who does graphic design as legit work and a passion instead of, I did 2 weeks of that on my art course and people keep asking me for graphic design. Oh, God.
Yeah, no, it is definitely, I have a notebook that says, like birth, and then it says, I think it's like the life of a graphic designer. Birth, can you make the font a little thicker? And then death. Like that's basically what is generally, the overall. I've had very strange questions. I had a client tell us one time that she thought that the thing that we had designed was just a little too spaceshipy, which was weird because it was a company that makes gravel.
Have you considered drop shadow?
Yeah. And then,
no.
We had a client who told us that he wanted, this is a long time ago, but he's like, I really want a website design. I really want that kind of like postmodern ancient future feel.
What the
and
hell?
I like
what?
I like blinked at him and he's like, like the Transformers website, because the first Transformers movie had just come out. I'm old, by the way. So
it was 1986. It was,
well,
I know, Michael Bay.
But still, yeah, it was, and so he was like, postmodern ancient future feel. Okay, all right. I don't know how we're gonna do that, and I don't think we should. But
here's a series of syllables that
in a pyramid.
Yeah. So nonetheless, graphic design has been a thing I've done for a long time. But and that was like my day job, and it turned into web design, and then it turned into user experience, user interface, UX, UI.
No one show him the materials for this channel. Nobody do that.
I'm not necessarily good at it. I'm competent at it, I think. So I'm also glad to be out of the game professionally. And it's so much nicer when you're your own client.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true.
And you also don't have to deal with the nightmare that is the AI bubble.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it is interesting to see like just I see so many. Even in wargaming, I see so many thumbnails. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's AI. Okay, great. And I'm very anti-AI. So I hope that that's okay with everybody, but I'm not a fan. And I don't know. I don't understand it. I cannot put my finger on it, but I can spot it like so quickly.
Yeah.
And especially the thumbnails. It's I don't know what Google's doing, but man, it's just, there is some shenanigans going on there. It's crazy.
I think the only thing AI really gets used for on this channel is to make the most radically cursed dumb stuff we possibly can. So
sure,
we're not doing anything useful, I guess would be a word to use for it, or meaningful or sensible.
And certainly not for money.
No.
The only time I ever used it was back in the kind of the early days. It was just after some app had come out. So you didn't have to like go to a Discord for Midjourney and like try to get it. It was just like an app, you could do it or whatever. And I had this stupid idea. I don't know why, but it just stuck in my head. And it was Sarah Jessica parkour. So I just told it I wanted a picture of Sarah Jessica Parker doing parkour, and then it made something that kind of looked like her, like jumping over like a garbage can or something like that or whatever and all that stuff. And I was like, hey, look at that. Oh, yeah. And that was literally the last time that I thought about using it. And then when it started to get like to be a big hot button, thing, and then you learn about what's going on and all the stealing that's going on and all the and all that and the data centers, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh God. So yeah.
My latest annoyance with AI, other than being accused of being one myself, is things that I've been using for years, since before AI was a thing, some of which have existed since the 70s, now calling themselves AI when they're not. That is my newest annoyance.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is crazy. Like, not only that, they're just trying to slide it into everything, but then also, as a person who's a computer user, and like, like I'm looking at hard drives, like, any kind of hard drive these days, for a while I was buying a lot of external SSDs, and here and there I'd pick one up, a 500 gig and a terabyte, a 2 terabyte. My wife would be like, "Why do you have all of these?" I'm like, "Well, it's always nice to be able to be able to put things on different things and do stuff, and some of them I can plug directly into cameras and record direct onto that." And now, like, I had been looking at a 4 terabyte. I have a 4 terabyte attached to my Mac that I do all of my work on, and I don't remember how much I spent on it, but it was maybe $225. And now, if you look at that thing on like Best Buy, it's like $900 or more.
Yeah.
And it's all because of just everything. And now, like, I was interested in the Valve Steam machine. I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool thing. And then,
$1,100.
Well, $1,400 if you want the 2 terabyte hard drive with the controller. It's like
just give me the new VR headset
or something. Yeah.
Just give us a price. Give it to me. I need it. I need it for my face.
I just bought a little. It's a company called Geekcom or Geekom, and it's a little mini PC with AMD Ryzen stuff in it, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think I spent $700 on it. It's got 32 gigs of RAM. It's only got a terabyte hard drive, but I can put in a bigger one if the prices ever come back down again. And first thing I did is I got Windows off of there because and I put a Linux thing on it called Bazite.
Yeah,
which is designed for gaming. Yeah,
Steam OS is built on. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and I put Bazite on there, and now I just use it to play Steam games, and it's awesome. I really like it.
Squick, do you want to tell them about the Strix Halo systems?
They're very nice, and unfortunately, money is real, so they're not for me.
Yeah.
You remembered money exists again. Good job.
Yeah, that's always a problem.
I forget about capitalism one time.
Yes, and I was listening.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I do have a very important question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Should people have been intrigued by listening to you, and they should have been, chat, I will fight you. This was interesting.
It was.
I had a good time. Where could people find you, Uncle Adam, on the internet so they could learn more?
Sure. I've got a YouTube channel called Tabletop Minions. I've been making videos every single Friday. I mean, technically, I've been making videos since 2013, but I didn't make them every single Friday except since 2015. So only a little over 10 years at this point. It'll be 11 years in October of every single Friday. And I do that.
He says.
Yes, and then I do every other Sunday show on YouTube.
I want to interject real quick. When he says he does this every Friday, he's done episodes where it's like, oh yeah, I can't do one this week from the ER.
Well, it was my mom. I wasn't in the ER. My mom was in the ER.
Sure,
but I was there, and with her and stuff. And then I had COVID one time, and so I but nonetheless. But then I also do Twitch twice a week. I'm on Twitch in usually Monday nights Central Time, 7 to 10, and then Friday mornings. So I'll be there tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time. And I just basically sit and paint and talk to folks. And then Vince and I have a game company, which is called Snarling Badger Studios. And you can find us at snarlingbadger.com. We also have a podcast that we've been doing for a little over a year now, which is called the Snarlcast, and it's about indie war games and their design.
Every other Sunday.
Yeah, every other Sunday show is on. Well, that show comes up on Mondays. Every other Monday is when that comes out. That's every 2-week podcast. The Every Other Sunday show is the YouTube channel that I do, or a YouTube show that I do in the mornings on every other Sunday, and that's at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Yeah, it's 2 hours, and that's just basically a chat show. I'm not painting or anything like that. But yeah, sometimes I do stuff with Army Painter. Gosh, I'll be at some shows. Like I said, I'll be at Gen Con. I'll be at probably PAX Unplugged. I'm going to a small little convention in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, which is the home of D&D, but it's a wargaming convention called Dragonfall. I'll be there in early October. I don't know if I have any other travel going on, thankfully.
And also the original home of Gen Con, which is why it's called Gen Con.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was, in fact, the Geneva Convention.
Exactly, yeah. It was interesting to see, like, in 2017, when they had the 50-year anniversary for Gen Con, they had a museum kind of they set up. They had a lot of cool pictures of like the original Gen Cons and things like that. It was just a bunch of guys in horn-rimmed glasses with button-up, like short sleeve, button-up short sleeve shirts, pocket protectors, and they were just pushing around ranks after ranks after ranks of like American Civil War guys. Like it was just Gen Con started and it was just historical wargaming. That's all it was, because there wasn't D&D yet.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, that's where. And Adam, you do have a Patreon in case people were so interested.
Oh yeah, I do too. That's a good point. And I have a merch store if you like T-shirts and stuff like that.
I do enjoy covering my human torso.
How about stickers that stay Flarg?
I don't have those on the website yet, but I'm going to be soonish. I've got to figure out the logistics, but yes.
Okay. And the ka-chow and such things.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, it is now 12:30 here in the Eastern Time Zone. We're 30 minutes past what we usually go to, but it has been an absolutely fantastic night.
It has. I got educated.
I too have learned.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Yes. And again, thank you for coming on and putting up with us. And this was less of a circus than it often at times is. So
well, that's good.
You have done a wonderful job of classing up the place.
Don't worry, we'll make up for it next week.
Sure, yeah.
I'll make up for it tomorrow. Don't you worry.
I'll do what I can,
So, and like I said, at some point we're going to have Jefferson from OPR on, and we'll talk with him too. And we're gonna try to catch up with some more people. And I don't know who else we're going to try to track down, but Adam, if at any point, if you're amenable, maybe we can do this again sometime, because I feel like we barely scratched the surface of what we could conceivably talk about. So, but again, like I said, we're at the end of the time slot, and we're going to go ahead and kill it here in just a minute. Ladies and gentlemen in chat, thank you for being here tonight. I do want to throw in real quick, again, if you want to send stuff in to us, if you want critique, if you want advice, whatever, send it to me at art@wbpl76.com. That's been dropped in the chat, but if you're watching the VOD, you won't see chat, so that's art@wbpl76.com. That comes straight to me. It gets forwarded to me, actually, so I guess not straight. And give me whatever photos you've got, your screen name, and what you're looking for. If you just want to show it off, that's great. If you want advice, that's great. Just let me know. Also, and yes, Zykes, yes, you can share pictures of Zykes. Why bathroom fridge? Why?
Shower beer.
Shower beer.
I've never understood the idea of drinking a beer in the
Bottle of wine for the lady who likes a bath.
Yeah, what else are you going to put in the bathroom fridge?
Yeah, that tracks. So send that in. We don't just take mini painting. As you saw, we also have had Gunpla and Lego. In the past, we've had people send us leatherworking or any of a number kind of things. I'm willing to look at any creative thing that you send to us. So,
is it creative? Do you want to show it off? Send it in.
Yes, if you send me like a hand-wrought jet engine that you built for your model RC plane, I'll look at it. I don't know. I'll have nothing to say about it, but we'll show it off. Archon Ericer. Well, you have the shower beer because you can't do a shower scotch. The ice will melt.
I mean, maybe it's a cold shower. I don't know.
Well, you don't want that much water in your scotch. In any event,
I look forward to next week when somebody sends you a photo of their bathroom with a fridge in it, just because.
I wouldn't put it past this audience. Anyway, again, audience, thank you for being here. Squick, Red, thank you for coming along tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam, thank you again so much for coming with us. We are going to go ahead and hit the outro. So good night, everybody, and catch us again next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.